Chapter 2775. The sky-splitting formation was a formation created by Su Fong based on his own understanding of formations, and he did not hesitate to consume his physical body and primordial spirit consciousness to perform the Tian Yin Xianjia again and again. Different from other formations created by spirit stones, energy, or with the help of formation flags or natural barriers, the sky-splitting formation created by Su Fong was formed by people. Through the people's positions and movements, it would cause subtle fluctuations in the energy of heaven and earth. And through the fluctuations of energy of heaven and earth, it would gradually accumulate and superimpose, thus forming the amazing power of the formation. Su Fong explained it to Gao Li and Gao Chuan in detail, and then asked them to organize the tribesmen to practice. In the following month, all the tribesmen of the Gao tribe were doing the boring, standing, and running every day. At first, they were running barehanded to change formations, and then they were carrying stones and tree trunks. After a day, they were all as tired as dogs. At night, they had to cultivate their bodies and qi, and they slept no more than 4 hours a day. If it were not for the elixir water Su Fong gave them before, which had completely changed their physiques, ordinary mortals would not be able to bear such amazing strength. The people of the Gao tribe couldn't believe that just constantly changing positions and running could be used to kill people. Even the siblings, Gao Li and Gao Chuan, were dubious about it. QL11, if it were not for the fact that they respected Su Fong like a god, they would not do such a ridiculous thing. Next, Su Fong constantly mixed elixir powder into elixir water for the tribesmen to take, which made their physical bodies transform again. After a month, the tribesmen of the Gao tribe finally practiced the sky-splitting formation to some extent. At this time, the Tuoba tribe's revenge finally came. There were not many tribesmen of the Tuoba tribe, only about 100, but there were 3 Daozhan realm cultivators among them. In Su Fong's current state, Daozhan realm cultivators were still as insignificant as ants. However, the tribesmen of the Gao tribe were trembling with fear. For cultivators, mortals were like ants. Mortals had a natural awe of cultivators, and this was something that no one could change. However, Su Fong wanted to completely change all of this. These barbarians from the lowly tribes seemed to be very strong. They're indeed not simple. The 3 cultivators from the Tuoba tribe were surprised to see the boundless life force of the Gao tribe members. They were not weaker than ordinary Dao, Truth Realm cultivators. Soon after, another cultivator scoffed, "They're just some stronger pigs and sheep. Capture them all, they'll make good slaves." Another cultivator nodded, "We have to capture them alive. These lowly peasants are a bit strange, especially their leader. We might be able to obtain something useful from them." There was also an old man with a goatee, who was clearly the leader. He said in a deep voice, "We have to end this quickly. The important figures sent by the city lord to patrol the plains are about to arrive at our Tuoba tribe. Don't waste too much time on these lowly people and delay our important matters." I wonder which lord has come to our Tuoba divine clan this time. It is said that he is the city lord's disciple, young Master Yang Shengtian. It's young Master Yang Shengtian? Opportunity. Our opportunity has come. If we can get young Master Yang Shengtian's recognition, it'll be a supreme fortune for us. I heard that young Master Yang Shengtian was injured when he fought with Su Fong, and his Dao heart and will were destroyed. Although young Master Yang Shengtian's Dao path was destroyed, he's still the city lord's disciple. Now that he's in charge of the city lord's affairs, he has great authority. If we can befriend him, we'll benefit a lot. Su Fong heard every word of their conversation clearly with his exceptional hearing at the great perfection stage. He was not surprised at all. What a coincidence! He did not expect to hear news about Yang Shengtian. Yang Shengtian was the disciple of the city lord of ancient Blue City. When Su Fong first came to Luhan Island, Su Fong used his true burning eyes to injure his soul and break his Dao heart and will. After that, Su Fong forgot about this ant-like person. He did not expect him to be a fox pretending to be a tiger in the vast plains. Yang Shengtian must have a lot of elixirs and spiritual items on him. What I lack now are these things. If I can control him and sneak into ancient Blue City, I might be able to save Gao Tianlei. Su Fang thought for a while and made a decision in his heart. Then he sent a voice filled with killing intent to the people of the Gao tribe. Suppress them all. Suppress these cultivators? Gao Chuan and the other members of the Gao tribe looked at each other. However, they had no choice but to obey Su Fang's order. They quickly stood and ran according to the formation they had practiced before. These lowly people, ant-like mortals, want to suppress us? They think they can suppress us just by running around like pigs and dogs. Ha ha! The three cultivators of the Tuoba tribe laughed out loud at the same time, as if they had heard the funniest thing in the world. The other members of the Tuoba tribe also laughed out loud together. However, they soon could not laugh anymore. Hundreds of Gao tribe members kept running back and forth in a strange formation. Gradually, a whirlwind was created and dust was swept up into the sky. In the beginning, the whirlwind was only formed by the flow of air. In the end, not only the air, even the natural energy of heaven and earth was attracted and moved according to a strange pattern. Then, it turned into an energy whirlpool that kept spreading in all directions, sucking the three cultivators and more than 100 members of the Tuoba tribe into it. Within the divine power of the formation, there was an astonishing twisting and tearing power. Those ordinary mortals who were sucked into the whirlpool were instantly minced into meat paste. The three cultivators struggled bitterly in the formation. Who would have thought that the more they struggled, the more the divine power of the formation would reflect their strength back, and the stronger the tearing power it released would be. Soon, the three cultivators' defense was torn apart layer by layer. In the end, they all died like the mortals. When the dust settled, the members of the Gao tribe were all exhausted and collapsed on the ground. Seeing the three cultivators killed by them, everyone was shocked. They never thought that mortals could really kill cultivators. From this moment on, their reverence for cultivators and their inferiority toward their status disappeared in an instant. Everyone looked at Su Fang with eyes full of excitement and reverence. At this moment, Su Fang's position in their hearts had risen to the same height as Gao Tianlei. Su Fang found 3 storage rings on the 3 cultivators. Unfortunately, he was shackled by the great taboo art. His primordial spirit and consciousness could not leave his body, and he did not have a trace of magic power. He could not take anything out of the storage rings. Even if there were some elixirs in the storage rings, Su Fang could not use them. He casually put the storage rings into his pocket. Uncle Fang, are we going to directly destroy the Tuoba tribe next? Gao Chuan asked Su Fang. Killing the 3 cultivators this time made his confidence soar. He actually planned to destroy the Tuoba tribe. Su Fang shook his head and smiled. No need. In a few days, the people of the Tuoba tribe will take the initiative to come to us. Next, Su Fang concocted elixir water for everyone to consume, allowing them to quickly recover. Their bodies also underwent another transformation. Then, Su Fang asked someone to find a valley and moved everyone into it. He let everyone continue to practice the sky-splitting formation in the valley while waiting for the arrival of the Tuoba tribe. The one Su Fang hoped to wait for the most was Yang Xingtian. About 3 months later, more than 10 figures flew across the sky. Their speed was almost at the peak of the Daojian realm. It was definitely not something that the cultivators of the Tuoba tribe could compare to. Su Fang sat cross-legged on a mountain peak on one side of the valley. With the help of the extraordinary vision of the Great Perfection stage, he saw the young cultivator who was only 18 or 19 years old in the lead. He immediately smiled. Yang Xingtian really came. At this moment, Yang Xingtian no longer had the high spirits of the past. His face was full of decadence, and his eyes were filled with ruthlessness. It was no wonder that his Tao heart and will were shattered. It was difficult to make any progress in cultivation. How could Yang Xingtian not be decadent? Su Fang pushed a rock next to him down the valley and hid behind a huge rock. When the people of the Gao tribe in the valley heard the commotion, they immediately cast a formation with familiarity. Dust and air waves rose and enveloped the valley. Half an hour later, Yang Shengtian flew over with more than 10 cultivators and stood in the air above a valley. Apart from Yang Shengtian, who was a Dao Lord, these cultivators were all at the Daojian realm. If they were careful, it was not difficult to sense Su Fang's aura. However, in the eyes of these cultivators, mortals were like ants and dust. They could be wiped out with a wave of their hand. Why would they be on guard? Formation? A group of mortals actually know the Tao of formation? Seeing the scene in the valley, Yang Shengtian's eyebrows suddenly curled up. A cultivator said disdainfully, "It is said that this low-level tribe is the tribe that Gao Tianlei came from. It is not surprising that they know some basic formation techniques." The other cultivators suddenly realized, no wonder the cultivators of the Tuoba tribe did not return. Gao Tianlei? Anyone related to Su Fang deserves to die. Yang Shangtan gritted his teeth. They're just a group of lowly ant-like people. Isn't it easy to wipe them out? A cultivator activated his flying sword and released sword chi that cut through the surrounding air and swept into the valley. However, when the sword chi fell into the area covered by the formation's divine power, it was immediately distorted, torn apart, and finally turned into nothingness. This formation is a bit strange. Go down, I want to capture them alive. Yang Shangtian showed an interested look and ordered the other cultivators. More than 10 cultivators displayed their divine power and rushed towards the valley with a crushing force. The strength of these cultivators far surpassed the 3 cultivators of the Tuoba tribe. The sky-splitting formation was, after all, cast by a group of mortals. Under the attack of Yang Shengtian's cultivators, it began to collapse. The Gao tribe members vomited blood and fell to the ground one by one. At this moment, Su Fang suddenly made his move. Swoosh! Swoosh! Su Fang threw more than 10 long spears that he had already prepared at Yang Shengtian. Then, he shot out from the peak of the mountain like an arrow. His speed was even faster than the spears that were flying out. He stepped on the spears one by one and borrowed the force to leap out. In an instant, he crossed a distance of more than 300 meters and arrived in front of Yang Shengtian. Then, he threw out a punch. Su Fang. When Yang Shengtian saw Su Fang, his body instantly turned cold. He stood there stupidly, as if he was frozen. Boom! Chapter 2776. Even though Su Fang had lost his ability to fly, he relied on the strength of his body to blast Yang Shengtian down with a single punch, and then he followed closely behind Yang Shengtian and descended into the valley. As soon as he laid eyes on Su Fang, Yang Shengtian had completely lost the will to resist. In his opinion, Su Fang was his nightmare. Bang! Su Fang fell to the ground from the sky and stepped on Yang Shengtian's chest, making things worse for Yang Shengtian. He was stomped into the ground, creating a huge crater. Under the intense impact, Yang Shengtian's body had almost collapsed, and his Dao palace shook as he fell unconscious. Su Fang's figure flashed, and he directly charged towards Yang Shengtian's subordinates. Su Fang was unable to utilize his avatar's abilities, thoughts, and divine abilities, and he was unable to control the Xian Bao. However, with merely his body and the divine might of the sky-split formation, killing these Dao True Realm cultivators was as easy as killing chickens, and they were all killed with a single punch. In less than 15 minutes, all the Dao True Realm cultivators had been killed, and not a single one had escaped. Su Fang heaved a long sigh of relief, and then he shook his head and laughed bitterly. He had to spend so much effort just to kill some low-level cultivators, and the feeling of losing his formidable strength made him feel extremely displeased. The members of the Gao tribe stopped, and the sky-split formation stopped operating as well. The valley quickly returned to calm. Over 20 members of the Gao tribe had died this time. They weren't killed by the cultivators, and it was because the formation had been attacked by the cultivators, causing them to die from exhaustion. The others were exhausted as well, and they instantly fell to the ground as soon as they stopped. However, when they saw Su Fang kill over 10 cultivators, the members of the Gao tribe were all excited, and their eyes revealed strong confidence. Su Fang took out medicinal pills and distributed them to swiftly recover their strength. And then he got someone to grab Yang Shengtian out of the hole. Young Master Yang Shengtian, how have you been? I never expected that we would meet again here. Su Fong looked at Yang Shengtian with a spurious smile, and his tone was filled with boundless ridicule. Su Fong, you're a peerless expert whose might shakes the Forsaken Gods region, and you're even capable of easily annihilating peak experts at the Downlord realm. I'm just an ant in your eyes. When I offended you in Flowing Cold Island, that was because I had eyes but failed to see. Now that you are a high and mighty figure, why won't you let me go? Yang Shengtian had completely lost his will and was like a pile of mud. His tone was filled with despair and indignation. Su Fong, swish, swish. Everyone in the Gao tribe fixed their eyes on Su Fong. They already knew that Su Fong was a peerless expert who was much stronger than Gao Tianlei. Even ancient Blue City Lord was incomparably respectful towards him. Who would have thought that the legendary peerless existence was actually this Uncle Fong? Gao Chuan asked in disbelief, Uncle Fong, are you really Su Fong? Su Fong nodded and said, That's right, I am Su Fong. I have a close relationship with Gao Tianlei. Everyone was shocked, and their hearts were in turmoil. Su Fong looked at Yang Shengtian and asked, Yang Shengtian, let me ask you, how is Gao Tianlei now? Yang Shengtian hurriedly replied, Gao Tianlei is being shackled in the City Lord's Mansion's prison by Yang Dingtian. His life is not in danger for the time being. Su Fong heaved a sigh of relief. He had a good impression of Gao Tianlei, who was straightforward by nature. Moreover, Gao Tianlei was implicated because of him. If he really died, it would be hard for him to feel at ease. Then Su Fong asked about the ancient Blue City. Yang Shengtian was now a broken jar, so he answered all of Su Fong's questions. However, Yang Shengtian knew nothing about the ancient Blue City, especially the Empyrean Pan Song. Su Fong suddenly asked, Yang Shengtian, why did the City Lord's Mansion suddenly summon everyone within the ancient Blue City's sphere of influence, including mortals, to ancient Blue City? They won't fool me with nonsense like helping all mortals to cleanse their marrow and change their talent. Well, I'm just a disciple in charge of external affairs. I don't know the intentions of the City Lord's Mansion's higher-ups. Yang Shengtian was startled and immediately answered without hesitation. However, a trace of panic flashed in his deep eyes, which could not escape Su Fong's eyes. Su Fong said coldly, Could it be that you want me to perform a soul search on you and strip your memories? Yang Shengtian trembled and said tremblingly, As long as you spare my life, I'll tell you anything. How could he know that in Su Fong's current state? How could he search his soul? He was also scared out of his wits by Su Fong, and his will collapsed. Otherwise, he would have seen through Su Fong's abnormal state at this time. I also accidentally heard Yang Dingtian talking with other senior brothers. The reason why the City Lord's Mansion summoned everyone in the ancient Blue City was to help the ancestor repair his life and change his luck. Repair his life and change his luck. Su Fong was shocked, and immediately a monstrous killing intent surged in his heart. All living things in the world had luck, and mortals were no exception. However, it was difficult to change luck, and practitioners could not devour other practitioners' luck. Of course, Su Fong's purple luck dharma body, Spider of Fortune, and some extremely special forbidden arts were exceptions. The so-called repair of life and change luck was an evil forbidden art that evil practitioners devoured mortals' luck to make up for their own. Mortals' luck was very weak. Once it was devoured, they would soon die. Moreover, to repair life and change luck, practitioners needed countless mortals, which meant that they had to kill countless mortals to make up for their own luck. In the eyes of practitioners, mortals were like ants. However, mortals were also the foundation of the world of practitioners. Once the foundation was destroyed, the whole world of practitioners would collapse. Therefore, even evil cultivators rarely killed mortals. Such an evil repair of life and change luck was naturally strictly prohibited by the god's realm of Jiushuan. Once it appeared, it was tantamount to betraying the human tribe, and everyone had to kill it. On the bloody killing platform in the second killing star city of the Blood Valley, Lord Pansong went for wool but came home shorn. His destiny Dharma body was devoured by the spider of fortune, and he suffered a great loss. Unexpectedly, he was so crazy that in order to make up for his lost luck, he even used the lives of all mortals in the ancient Blue City to repair his life and change his luck. Although the ancient Blue City wasn't some peak power in the heaven-forsaken desolate region, there were countless mortals within the ancient Blue City's sphere of influence. For Emperor Pansong to want so many people to mend his life and change his fate was simply insane. In order to survive, Lord Pansong could even abandon the lives of the entire Pansong universe. Why would he care about the lives of mortals in the ancient Blue City? This man is selfish and ruthless, which makes one's hair stand on end. Su Fang's entire body was oozing with coldness. Fortunately, he caught Yang Xingtian this time. Otherwise, it would be impossible to know about Lord Pansong's shocking plan. Although Gao Li, Gao Chuan, and the other higher-ups of the Gao tribe did not understand what Yang Xingtian meant by repairing life and changing luck, they understood from Su Fang's serious expression. In an instant, their faces turned pale. Su Fang calmed his breathing, and his calm eyes swept across the people of the Gao tribe. Then he said in a deep voice, "Gao Li, Gao Chuan, take your people and quickly return to your tribe. Now that you've mastered the sky-splitting array, even ordinary cultivators won't be able to threaten you. As long as you practice diligently, you'll become cultivators sooner or later. In the future, no one in the vast plains will be able to threaten your Gao tribe." Gao Chuan said anxiously, "Uncle Fang, you're not coming with us?" "Me?" Su Fang smiled lightly, and then said with certainty, "I'm going to the ancient Blue City." "What? You're going to the ancient Blue City?" The expressions of the people of the Gao tribe changed greatly, and they looked at Su Fang in shock. Gao Chuan shouted, "Uncle Fang, you're seriously injured, and the ancient Blue City is so dangerous now. Aren't you walking into a trap by going to the ancient Blue City?" "Seriously injured?" Yang Xingtian was surprised. Only now did he notice that not only had Su Fang's face become old, but his life aura had also withered. It was even difficult to sense any aura of a cultivator from him. Thinking of Su Fang's sneak attack on him, Yang Xingtian suddenly realized, if Su Fang wasn't injured, he could have suppressed me with just a thought. Why would he go through so much trouble? Thinking of this, Yang Xingtian's deep eyes revealed a ruthless look, and the fear he had for Su Fang suddenly disappeared. Although his physical body was seriously injured, he still had his Dharma body, and he could still use a thought attack. Su Fang didn't seem to notice Yang Xingtian's abnormality and said to Gao Chuan, "I'm really seriously injured now, and I've almost lost all my strength. Going to the ancient Blue City is extremely dangerous, and it's no different from walking into a trap. But there are some things that I know I can't do, but I have to do it because I'm Su Fang." Yang Shengtian sneered disdainfully and said in a sarcastic tone, "For a group of ants, you took the initiative to jump out and die. Su Fang, oh Su Fang, you're so stupid. You're actually prepared to smash an egg against a rock. I really don't know how you've lived until now." The people of the Gao tribe all glared at him. "In your eyes, these mortals are all ants, but in my eyes, Su Fang, including your master, the city lord of the ancient Blue City, they're all just ants, and even lower than mortals." Su Fang looked at Yang Xingtian and revealed a domineering smile. "I, Su Fang, was born in a low-level universe, and I'm also what they call the Heaven's Forsaken Slave Clan. But to be able to reach my current height, I didn't rely on being greedy for life and being afraid of death. Instead, I relied on my pride, and through my own efforts, I held up the sky with one hand and changed my fate. I, Su Fang, have always done things according to my heart. These mortals in the ancient Blue City had their fates changed by your Grandmaster because of me. If I didn't know about it, then so be it. But now that I've met them, I have no choice but to care. Not for anything else, but for an open-minded Tao heart and a magnanimous heart." Su Fang's clanging voice revealed a supreme, domineering, and heroic spirit, making the people of the Gao tribe feel their blood boil. At this moment, their hearts were filled with reverence for Su Fang. It was different from the reverence they had before. Before, they revered Su Fang's strength, but now they were subdued by Su Fang's domineering and heroic spirit. Chapter 2777. Su Fang looked at Yang Shengtian indifferently and said disdainfully, "You think you can suppress me, Su Fang?" Although Su Fang's eyes were not very sharp, Yang Shengtian couldn't help but shiver. Immediately, he realized that Su Fang was seriously injured and immediately became arrogant again. "Su Fang, do you still think you're that peerless figure who shook the heavens and abandoned the desolation region? You're now a phoenix in distress, not even comparable to a bald chicken." After that, he once again gnashed his teeth. "Everything that you owe me, I will return it to you tenfold. After that, I will send you to the ancient Blue City, and it will definitely be a great achievement. Master might even bestow me with a supreme medicinal pill that can reconstruct my Tao heart and willpower." The people of the Gao tribe turned pale with fright and rushed forward. Su Fang waved his hand to stop the people of the Gao tribe and looked at Yang Shengtian. "You're daydreaming. Unfortunately, it's still a dream, and you'll soon wake up from it. Su Fang, you still dare to be so arrogant at this point? I'll let you reveal your true colors. Kneel before me." Yang Shengtian grinned sinisterly, and a thought flashed out from between his eyebrows. It turned into a flaming sword chi and shot towards Su Fang's heart. In order to take revenge on Su Fang for breaking his Tao heart, he directly used his thought to attack Su Fang's Tao heart. First, he would break Su Fang's Tao heart, and then slowly torture Su Fang. Little did he know that when the flaming sword chi landed on Su Fang's chest, a majestic force shattered the flaming sword chi. It was not Su Fang's rainbow Jade Tao heart, but the great taboo-breaking technique from the three supreme mysterious sects. While it shackled Su Fang's rainbow Jade Tao heart, it also became a powerful defense that easily dissolved Yang Shengtian's attack. Yang Shengtian was shocked and stunned. He realized that things were not going well, and it was different from what he had imagined. "Since I've decided to deal with you, how could I not have the means to suppress you?" Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. An ethereal divine light flashed from his eyes, enveloping Yang Shengtian and his surroundings. "Qi!" A mysterious aura shot out from between Su Fang's eyebrows and turned into an invisible thread. It instantly landed on Yang Shengtian's body and firmly tied to his fate. Life-pulling karma thread. Su Fang's cultivation, dharmakaya, and everything else were shackled by the great taboo-breaking technique. He couldn't use his supernatural powers, but he couldn't shackle the Tianji life shrinking technique. Although Su Fang was shackled by the great taboo-breaking art, and the life force consumption of the Heaven's secret life shrinking art was several times higher than normal, he had nothing to worry about. Fortunately, Yang Shengtian was not an expert. Although using the life-shrinking technique to plant the life-pulling karma line on him consumed a lot of life force, it was still within the range that Su Fang could barely bear. The moment the life-pulling karma line was tied to Yang Shengtian's fate, the way Yang Shengtian looked at Su Fang immediately changed. At this time, Su Fang was no longer the target of his hatred, but the supreme existence that controlled his fate. Su Fang dominated everything about him, including his will and primordial spirit consciousness. Controlling fate with the life-pulling karma line was much more terrifying than Su Fang's second primordial spirit using the night demon magic to control people's thoughts and consciousness. "Master!" Yang Shengtian knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Su Fang. This scene shocked the people of the Gao tribe, who were worried about Su Fang just a moment ago. "Get up," Su Fang said indifferently, and then wiped the sweat from his forehead. His face looked more than 10 years older. His skin was old, and his hair was white. He looked like an old man in his 50s. Su Fang took out all the storage rings he had obtained from the cultivators he had killed and asked Yang Shengtian to take out all the resources inside. There were nearly 100,000 elixirs in total, most of which were low-grade elixirs. There were also more than 20 Xianbao items, but their quality was not very high. Gao Li, take these cultivation resources and go quickly. Su Fong nodded to Gao Li. Master, you're giving all these treasures to our Gao tribe. Gao Li was dumbfounded. The others were also in a state of intense shock. Su Fong nodded and said, these elixirs and Xianbao are of no use to me. Take all of them. They're enough to help your Gao tribe cultivate a group of cultivators. Remember, don't expose them easily. Otherwise, it will bring disaster to your tribe. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Uncle Fong. The people of the Gao tribe knelt on the ground one after another, and each of them shed tears of gratitude. I can only help you this much. Your fate is in your own hands. If fate wills it, we may meet again in the future. Yang Shengtian, let's go. Su Fong ordered Yang Shengtian to suck him into the Taoist palace. Then Yang Shengtian flew away and soon disappeared from the sight of the Gao tribe. Looking at the sky for a long time, Gao Chuan's eyes gradually became firm and determined. He muttered to himself, Uncle Fong is right. Fate is in our own hands. As long as we don't accept our fate and keep working hard, we will be able to control our own fate and future. I also want to become a peerless expert like Uncle Fong. I want to make all those who bully and look down on me tremble at the mention of my name. As soon as he finished speaking, Gao Chuan was slapped hard on the back of his head by Gao Li. What's the use of dreaming if you want to become a powerful figure like Su Fongda? Let's go and destroy the Tuoba tribe. Gao Chuan was stunned. Destroy the Tuoba tribe? Gao Li said domineeringly. That's right. Destroy the Tuoba tribe and strengthen our Gao tribe. Our Gao tribe was personally trained by Su Fongda. How can we embarrass him? Su Fong sat cross-legged in Yang Shengtian's Taoist palace. While swallowing elixirs, he continued to break through the shackles of the great taboo art. He had yet to recover the lifespan he had consumed previously. In order to shackle Yang Shengtian, he once again used the divine life shrinking technique, which made Su Fong even worse. He had taken out 5 ancient elixirs from his storage ring before, but they were elixirs to restore the physical body, improve the primordial spirit, and cultivation. They had little effect on restoring life force. Although Yang Shengtian had a lot of elixirs for Su Fong, they were better than nothing. Yang Shengtian flew in the direction of ancient Blue City for more than 10 days. He had already gone deep into the central area of the vast plains. With the help of Yang Shengtian's divine might, Su Fong could see that on the vast plains there were groups of mortals. They were like ants marching towards ancient Blue City. The smaller groups only had a few dozen people, while the larger groups numbered in the millions. These mortals thought that by going to ancient Blue City, they would be able to obtain unparalleled good fortune. But they would never have thought that what awaited them would be a situation of certain death. Seeing this scene, Su Fong sighed in his heart. Yang Shengtian suddenly said, Master, not far ahead is the gathering place of all the major tribes. I have a palace there. Would you like to take a rest? Yang Shengtian's physical body had been severely injured by Su Fong. Although he had swallowed a lot of elixirs, he was still in a seriously injured state and could not hold on any longer. Yang Shengtian continued, I am now in charge of managing the major tribes of the vast plains. Each tribe will offer treasures. Perhaps there will be treasures that can help Master recover. Su Fong replied, Then I'll go and stay for a while. Of course, he did not expect those mortal tribes to have any treasures. Even if there were, how could he be interested in them? However, he was not in a hurry to go to ancient Blue City. He would let Yang Shengtian recover first. When he reached ancient Blue City, it would be easier for him to handle things. Soon, they arrived at a vast area. Countless tribes were gathered here. The tents of the mortals stretched for thousands of miles. It was a spectacular sight. As soon as Yang Shengtian appeared, he was immediately discovered by the cultivators of the tribes. Many cultivators and mortals knelt down to him. It could be seen that his identity as the disciple of the city lord was extraordinary. Arriving at a palace created with a divine ability, Yang Shengtian entered the depths of the palace and released Su Fong from the palace. QL11 soon, Many cultivators from the major tribes came to pay their respects. Su Fong let Yang Shengtian go out to deal with them, while he stayed in the depths of the palace. Just as Su Fong expected, although the cultivators of the major tribes offered Yang Shengtian many treasures, they were only for ordinary cultivators. Such high-level treasures were useless to Su Fong. 3 days later, Yang Shengtian's thought passed through the formation. "Master, good news, very good news." Su Fong suddenly opened his eyes. "What's the matter?" The shadow formed by Yang Shengtian's thought said, "A few days ago, I asked people to find out where there are spiritual items that can quickly restore life force. I didn't have much hope at first, but who knew that I would actually find useful information? It turned out that a cultivator from a major tribe, in order to please Yang Shengtian, told him a shocking secret. 1,000 years ago, not far from the major tribe, a void suddenly collapsed, forming an abyss. An astonishing life force constantly gushed out from it. Therefore, that place was called the Well of Divine Blood by the tribes. That life force was very strange. If mortals absorbed a little, they would explode and die due to the crazy growth of life force. Cultivators could not absorb too much, or the result would be the same. Su Fong was surprised. The Well of Divine Blood? There is actually such a strange place in the sphere of influence of ancient Blue City? Yang Shengtian said, "It's absolutely true. The cultivators of that tribe even specially collected some and sealed them in a Tao bottle, preparing to offer it to ancient Blue City Lord. Now I have it. Master, do you want to take a look? Quickly give it to me." Soon, Yang Shengtian's thought brought a Tao bottle to the depths of the palace. He let Yang Shengtian open the seal of the Tao bottle. Immediately, an incomparably majestic life force rushed out from the Tao bottle, turning into a bright red blood mist, shrinking and rolling in front of Su Fong. Su Fong sensed it and could not help but be shocked. The life force in this Tao bottle was comparable to the blood essence of a peerless powerhouse that surpassed a Tao master. Chapter 2778. Strange, it's really strange. How could there be such a strange thing in the ancient Blue City? Su Fong could not figure it out. Then Su Fong opened his mouth and sucked in all the life aura floating out of the Tao bottle. As soon as the aura entered Su Fong's body, it quickly merged with Su Fong's life aura, causing the blood in his body to surge, the life aura to burn wildly, and the life force to grow wildly. However, the aura was still too little. The change in Su Fong's body only lasted for a few breaths, and then it quickly calmed down. After Su Fong sensed it, he found that the life force he lost had increased a little. Although it was insignificant, Su Fong's life force was so profound that such a little aura was even more terrifying than a high-grade elixir. Then, Su Fong ignored the consumption and used his physical body and primordial spirit consciousness to activate the heavenly prying eye and carefully sensed it. The result made Su Fong fall into a state of intense shock. The life aura contained a reverse power. It's actually a kind of poison. It was completely out of Su Fong's expectations. Such an astonishing life aura, which contained a power that caused life to grow wildly, actually came from an extremely strange poison. Of course, it was not an ordinary poison. This poison was not like ordinary poisons, which corroded and destroyed life force. Instead, it did the opposite. It could cause life to reverse, grow wildly, and even affect one's consciousness. Moreover, this poison had already reached the level of Tao. Compared to ordinary poisons, it was more than 10 times more terrifying. This is a blood poison from an unknown life form. If it's within a controllable range, it has an amazing effect on a cultivator's life force recovery. However, once it's out of control, it will cause the physical body to grow wildly and eventually explode. At the same time, it will cause the cultivator to lose their consciousness. Su Fong speculated and was frightened by this terrifying blood poison. However, this blood poison is a chance for me to recover my life force. As long as I'm careful, I can quickly recover my life force. Su Fong quickly made a decision. Let's go. Let the tribe cultivator lead the way to the so-called Well of divine blood. Su Fang re-entered Yang Shengtian's Dao Palace. Then, under the lead of the cultivator from the vast plains, Yang Shengtian flew towards the southeast of the vast plains. To mortals, this vast plain was incomparably vast. However, to cultivators it was nothing. After about 3 months of flying, they arrived at a vast primeval forest. After passing through a large forest, a collapsed area with an area of thousands of feet appeared abruptly in their line of sight. With the help of Yang Shengtian's divine might, Su Fang saw that the collapsed area was actually caused by the collapse of space. The bottomless hole in the ground was actually a spatial rift. Blood-red mist continuously drifted out of the cave. However, the area within 5 kilometers of the cave was completely barren, with not a single blade of grass growing. A black eagle flew over the cave. Coincidentally, there was a bloody mist floating in the air as the black eagle passed through it. Sizzle. The black eagle's body rapidly grew. In just 3 to 5 breaths, it grew from less than 10 feet to 10 feet in size. Furthermore, its entire body was emitting a violent and ferocious aura. Puff, when the black eagle's body reached its limit, it suddenly exploded, turning into a cloud of bloody mist that drifted in the air. The aura emitted from the well of divine blood is indeed extremely shocking. Su Fang was shocked. The cultivator from the large tribe warned Yang Shengtian, "Young Master Yang, although the well of divine blood has miraculous effects on cultivators to recover their physical body and life force, you must not go too deep inside. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. I know what to do." Yang Shengtian nodded and slowly flew towards the well of divine blood. As soon as he entered the area above the cave, a majestic life force surged. Not only Yang Shengtian, but even Su Fang, who was in his Dao Palace, suddenly became spirited. The blood and qi in his body surged uncontrollably. QL11, just as he was about to fly into the cave, a dozen figures on flying swords suddenly flew over at lightning speed. Before they arrived, a thought appeared in front of Yang Shengtian and turned into a human figure. The city lord has ordered that the well of divine blood is sealed. No one is allowed to enter. Hurry up and leave. Yang Shengtian, what are you doing here, you piece of trash? What a coincidence. It was actually an acquaintance of Yang Shengtian. I'm in charge of the vast plains tribe. This is my jurisdiction. Why can't I come? Yang Shengtian said in a deep voice, his eyes filled with anger. Then, he explained to Su Fang, who was in the Dao Palace, using his divine sense. It turned out that this person was also a disciple of the ancient Blue City. His cultivation was at the same level as Yang Shengtian, but his status was far inferior to Yang Shengtian. After all, Yang Shengtian was the personal disciple of the city lord. However, that was all history. Yang Shengtian was injured by Su Fang, which was equivalent to his Dao path being crippled. In the future, it will be difficult for him to improve on the path of cultivation. As a result, he lost his power in the ancient Blue City. Now, Yang Shengtian was arranged to be in charge of the vast plains tribe outside the ancient Blue City. Although he was awe-inspiring in front of those tribe cultivators, in the ancient Blue City, his status was about the same as ordinary cultivators. In the past, when Yang Shengtian was in power, he was arrogant and domineering. Now that he lost his power, he was naturally ridiculed and humiliated. His days are not so good. Yang Shengtian's fate was now controlled by Su Fang, but his self-awareness was still there. Being looked down upon by that cultivator, he was naturally furious. It's actually that trash Yang Shengtian. I heard that trash dominates the vast plains tribe like a local tyrant. He's awe-inspiring all day long, and his days are very comfortable. Another dozen or so cultivators flew over. Among them, the cultivators from the ancient Blue City saw Yang Shengtian and immediately mocked him. There were also 3 cultivators who wore very simple clothes, but their strengths were shocking. One of them was at the upper Downlord realm, and the other 2 were at the lower Downlord realm. Their auras were empty, and their strengths were extraordinary. They were obviously not cultivators of the ancient Blue City, and it was unknown which formidable power they were from. The three of them looked coldly at each other, and they didn't take Yang Shengtian seriously at all. A yellow-browed middle-aged man from the ancient Blue City with a cultivation at the lower Daolord realm shouted at Yang Shengtian. The well of divine blood is about to be sealed. Why aren't you scramming? Could it be that you want me to invite you out? Yang Shengtian's heart was filled with humiliation and rage, and he had no choice but to grit his teeth and leave. Suddenly, a red-haired young man in a crimson robe shouted in a domineering manner. The city lord's estate asked you to patrol the tribes, but I heard that you seized the opportunity to plunder the various tribes and ignored the city lord's orders. Hand over all the wealth you plundered. Yang Shengtian gnashed his teeth. Qi Zicheng, don't go too far. I've offended you in the past, and you've already taken revenge on me tenfold in the ancient Blue City. Why are you still being so overbearing now? So what if I've gone too far? The red-haired young man emanated the pressure of his will, and it suppressed Yang Shengtian to the point he trembled and was practically unable to fly. Su Fong suddenly spoke from within the Yang Shengtian Dao Palace. Give it to him, then seize the opportunity to enter the well of divine blood. Yes, master, Yang Shengtian replied to Su Fong in secret, and then he withdrew a storage ring and tossed it to the red-haired young man. As expected, you've plundered quite a bit, but it's all a pile of junk. I never imagined that the dignified Yang Shengtian, the personal disciple of the city lord, would be reduced to picking up junk. Ha ha! The red-haired young man laughed complacently and withdrew the pressure he exerted on Yang Shengtian. Yang Shengtian seemed to be unable to endure it, and he staggered and was unable to fly, causing his figure to fall down. Trash is trash. The cultivators from the ancient Blue City laughed wantonly once more. Unexpectedly, Yang Shengtian's figure suddenly flashed, and he charged into the cave like a bolt of lightning. By the time those cultivators reacted, Yang Shengtian's figure had already vanished without a trace from the cave. That trash, Yang Shengtian, you're courting death. The red-haired young man was furious, and he intended to pursue Yang Shengtian. The Dao Lord waved his hand and said, since he wants to go in, then he can stay there forever. Seal the well of divine blood. The yellow-browed old man from the ancient Blue City raised his brows. Even though Yang Shengtian is trash, he's the personal disciple of the city lord in the end. If the city lord finds out, the Dao Lord said in a dignified manner, there's no need to speak any further. I'll make the decision. The yellow-browed old man didn't speak any further, and he utilized his divine might to seal the well of divine blood. Yang Shengtian fled into the well of divine blood, and he fell down 3 kilometers in one go before he finally stopped. Su Fong came out from the Dao Palace and looked over. It turned out that this was the deepest part of the well of divine blood, and it was a blood-red, independent space. The space was filled with dense blood mist, and it contained a vast and strange aura of life. It was the blood poison that Su Fong had deduced. The space wasn't large, and it was only 3 kilometers in size. The space's barrier was extremely strange. It wasn't a natural barrier, and it was a blood-red membrane that separated the space from the outside world. A ball of blood that was 1 meter in size floated at the center of the blood-red space. Blood mist coiled around it, and it was impossible to see what was inside. Blood stalks were connected to the surrounding barrier from within the ball of blood, and it looked extremely strange. Due to the blood mist that floated everywhere, the strange energy contained within it caused the blood qi within Su Fong's body to surge madly. Activate your defenses and carefully absorb the blood qi. Don't be too greedy, or you'll explode and die. Su Fongdao warned Yang Shengtian. If Yang Shengtian died here, then it would be extremely difficult for him to leave, so he had to remind Yang Shengtian. After that, Su Fong sat down cross-legged and absorbed a strand of blood qi into his body. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The blood qi within his body seemed as if it had been ignited. It instantly blazed madly and roared wantonly within his body. Su Fong could clearly sense that the vitality he'd lost in the past was recovering at a shocking speed. His appearance and hair were also rapidly changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 2779. This well of divine blood was truly strange. How could Su Fong not be careful? Su Fong speculated that this so-called well of divine blood was definitely related to the evil other races, and ancient Song City was definitely related as well. But why would ancient Song City send people to seal the well of divine blood was something that Su Fong could not understand. This is definitely not a place to stay for long. I need to recover my life as quickly as possible, and then quickly leave. Looking at that ball of blood, Su Fong couldn't help but feel his heart jump. It was a pity that he could not use the life-shrinking technique unless it was an emergency. Otherwise, he might be able to find some clues from it. Hiss! Another blood-red presence of life was sucked into Su Fong's body through his nose and mouth. At the same time, the presence also entered his body through his skin, causing the blood in his body to once again surge like a wave. The flame of life also burned furiously at the same time. The presence of life contained in that blood-red presence was astonishing. It could also cause the life force in his body to change, causing Su Fong's life to recover at an astonishing speed. His hair quickly turned from silver to white, and then to black. Each strand of hair was flashing with spiritual light. His skin also quickly became smooth and soft, and finally became as smooth and glossy as a baby's skin. From the surface, it seemed that time had reversed on Su Fong's body. He quickly went from an old man to a middle-aged man, then a youth, and finally a 17 or 18-year-old youth. Such an incredible presence of life. Even the ancient Dan that Shixin Daozu had given him could not compare to even 1/10 of this. But the side effects of absorbing this presence of life were also very obvious. Su Fong felt that the blood energy in his body was about to go out of control. His entire body had a terrifying feeling that it was constantly expanding and exploding. Even his primordial spirit and consciousness became manic and evil. There was a desire to devour everything in the depths of his heart. Su Fong's physical body was strong. His control of his body and blood energy far surpassed that of ordinary cultivators. That was why he could control the expanding presence in his body. Although his colorful jade heart of Tao was sealed and he couldn't release his will still dominated his consciousness and was extremely tenacious. Moreover, he had cultivated the blood evil spell body, and his will had been baptized by the blood evil chi time and time again. The desire in his heart couldn't dominate his primordial spirit consciousness. 6 hours later, Su Fong's life aura was vast and boundless, more than 10 times that of cultivators of the same level. After absorbing without restraint, the blood energy within the 10,000-foot wide blood-red space became 10 times thinner. He then looked at Yang Shengtian. He carefully absorbed the aura around him, fearing that his body would explode and he would die. He didn't dare to be as unscrupulous as Su Fong. However, the benefits he obtained were also extremely shocking. Not only was his body completely healed, but the life force in his body had also become even more vast. It's about time to leave. Su Fong was overjoyed when he sensed that his body had recovered to its peak. The recovery of his physical body meant that he had a certain level of strength. In a critical moment, he could even use the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. Su Fong didn't dare to stay any longer and decisively decided to leave. Staying in the well of divine blood made him feel uneasy. Suddenly, a very tender voice sounded in Su Fong's and Yang Shengtian's minds. Two low-level existences. You want to leave after devouring my fetal origin energy? Immediately after, the blood membrane-like boundary around the blood-red space began to surge rapidly, sealing off the entire space. The astonishing shackles made it difficult for Su Fong and Yang Shengtian to move. What the hell is this? Su Fong's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the blood ball in the space. As he had expected, the well of divine blood was definitely not a good place. You've eaten my things. Bring them all to me. Even your lives and cultivation will become the nutrients for my birth. The young voice rang out once more. The clear voice was filled with endless evil. Chi, chi, chi. The blood chi around the blood ball surged, and blood threads suddenly shot out from it. They looked like the roots of plants, but also like the tentacles of water monsters. They swept towards Su Fong and Yang Xingtian. Yang Xingtian activated a high-grade Xian Bao that looked like a Rui and released a Xian Guang to form a defensive boundary, blocking the blood threads outside. Chi, chi. Those strands of blood were like snakes. They wriggled madly on the barrier, penetrated it, corroded it, and devoured the energy on the barrier. The barrier created by a high-grade dark artifact didn't seem to be able to last for long. Sky-piercing blood vines. This scene made Su Fong think of the sky-piercing blood vines. The blood threads were very similar to the vines of the sky-piercing blood vines, but they were different from the ones Su Fong had encountered before. Xian Daozu's voice suddenly sounded in Su Fong's mind. The sky-piercing blood vines have appeared. It looks like the Eastern Xian Divine Realm is going to be in turmoil again. Su Fong hurriedly asked, Master, you recognize this damn thing? Was it about the heaven-piercing Blood King vine? Is it also a type of sky-piercing blood vines? That's right, but there are differences. The sky-piercing blood vines is the king of the sky-piercing blood vines. It is 10,000 times more powerful than ordinary sky-piercing blood vines. It has an almost immortal life, and it has the terrifying ability to pierce through heaven and earth and devour everything. It is an evil life form specially cultivated by the foreign race. It is very troublesome. Even Xian Daozu found it troublesome, and it would definitely be fatal to ordinary cultivators. Su Fong's scalp went numb. It is precisely because the sky-piercing blood vines are so troublesome that the Jiushuan Divine Realm listed them as a type of foreign life form that poses a great threat to the human race. In the Jiushuan Divine Realm, as long as the sky-piercing blood vines appear, it will immediately be sensed by the Divine Realm and obliterated. Strange, why would the sky-piercing blood vines appear in this heaven-forsaken wasteland without triggering the Jiushuan Divine Realm's laws? Understand now, what appeared here is only a seed of the sky-piercing blood vines. It was nurtured in the heaven-forsaken wasteland and absorbed the mystic world's aura. Therefore, it was not detected by the Jiushuan Divine Realm's laws. Those foreign races are getting more and more cunning. Although this can avoid the detection of the Jiushuan Divine Realm's laws, the sky-piercing blood vine's mother body has to pay a hefty price. It might even damage its origin. It looks like the foreign race is planning to attack Dongxian. Xian Daozu mumbled to himself, allowing Su Fong to understand the whole story. It was simple. To avoid the detection of the Jiushuan Divine Realm's laws, the foreign race had buried a sky-piercing blood vine seed here to nurture it. The so-called Well of Divine Blood was the place where the sky-piercing blood vines were nurtured. The aura that contained an astounding amount of vitality was the chi of origin that nurtured the sky-piercing blood vine seed. The aura of vitality that could nurture the sky-piercing blood vine seed was naturally astounding, allowing Su Fong's lost vitality to recover rapidly. However, Su Fong was now trapped in the well of divine blood, facing the sky-piercing blood vines that were about to be born. It was as if he had fallen into a hopeless situation. How could Su Fong not be afraid of the sky-piercing blood vines that even Xian Daozu was wary of? Of course, Su Fong could not care less about the foreign race's invasion of the Eastern Xian Divine Realm, nor did he have the ability to do so. Now, however, it was a matter of life and death. It's only a sky-piercing bloodvine seed. There's no need for this master to do anything. However, if you're willing to use one chance, this master will naturally agree to your request. Xian Daozu's words made Su Fong dismiss the idea. It looked like he had to rely on himself to resolve this crisis. Sizzle. Under the frenzied surge of the blood strands, the barrier was penetrated by the blood strands and finally collapsed layer by layer. As expected of the sky-piercing blood vines, as expected of the two words sky-piercing, it was only a seed, but the blood strands released by the seed could easily penetrate the barrier cast by the high-grade Xian Bao. Although Su Fong already knew that the Xianbao's defense would not be able to withstand it, he did not expect the sky-piercing blood vines to leave like this. Caught off guard, he could not use his divine power or Xianbao to defend himself. He could only watch as the dense blood strands surged over and instantly wrapped around him tightly. Master, Yang Xingtian was about to cast a mental defense to protect Su Fong. However, he was completely covered by the blood strands just like Su Fong. He had no choice but to activate his defense with all his might to resist the blood strands' corrosion. The penetrative ability of the sky-piercing blood vines was extremely shocking. Even with Su Fong's physical defense, he could only block it for a moment before the blood strands penetrated into his body. Su Fong felt his vitality and blood qi being crazily devoured by the blood strands and rapidly flowing out of his body. He was instantly horrified. Not only his physical body, but the blood strands also penetrated into the Jiuquan Dao Palace and Dao Heart, attempting to devour his Dao Palace, Dao Body, and Dao Heart. You have swallowed my qi of fetal origin. Be obedient and spit it all out. Along with your blood qi, magical power, and soul, they will all become my nutrients. Huh? A blood shadow appeared inside Su Fong's Jiuquan Dao Palace. It was not a human figure, but the shadow of a blood vine. It was only as tall as a person, and it sent a message to Su Fong that was filled with complacency. You are just an unborn sky-piercing blood vine seed, and you want to devour me? You can't even penetrate my Dao Palace and Dao Heart's defense. Let's see how you are going to devour me. Su Fong's divine thought was filled with disdain and dominance. Lowly existence, you dare to look down on me? The shadow was enraged. The blood strands surged out of his physical body like a tide, rushing towards Su Fong's Jiuquan Dao Palace and Dao Heart. Qi, qi, qi. The blood strand were sent flying by a formless and majestic divine power, and many of them were even shattered. The great taboo art. The great taboo art shackled Su Fong's everything except his physical body, but at this moment, it became a powerful protection. Even with the sky-piercing blood vine seed's amazing penetrating ability, it could not be shaken at all. Su Fong snorted. Am I wrong? Once I am born, I can devour a human mystic world. How can I be stopped by the defense of a puny cultivator like you? The shadow was enraged and urged more blood strand to attack Su Fong's Jiuquan Dao Palace and Dao Heart. Buzz, buzz. Chapter 2780. You can actually shake my defense. That's impossible. You are just a seed in the incubation stage. Su Fong began to panic, a look of horror and despair on his face. In fact, he was laughing in his heart. He couldn't wait for the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine's blood threads to come more violently. In fact, even Su Fong didn't expect the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to be so powerful. It was just a seed in the incubation stage, but it could shake the great taboo art. He had been unable to find a good way to break free from the shackles of the great taboo art. Now that he had such an opportunity, how could he not be happy? However, on the surface, he still didn't show it. Master, Yang Xingtian saw that Su Fong was shackled by the blood threads and let out an angry roar. He kept releasing divine power from his body in an attempt to shake off the blood threads that had infiltrated his body. He was acting out of instinct because he was controlled by Su Fong's life-pulling karma thread. Unfortunately, with his strength, he couldn't even protect himself. How could he save Su Fong? Don't worry about me. Protect yourself first, Su Fong shouted. Only then did Yang Xingtian give up the idea of saving Su Fong. Humph! I am a top-notch life form in the primal chaos. Although I am currently in your human world, my mother is constantly injecting her embryonic origin energy into my body. Not only am I immortal, but I also possess strength that surpasses your human race. How could a lowly human like you be worthy of my attention? The shadow formed by the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine seed was pleased when it saw Su Fong's terrified and desperate look. The blood threads that surged into Su Fong's body became even more terrifying. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine had the astonishing ability to pierce through heaven and earth and devour everything. It also had an immortal and indestructible life force. However, this seed was still in a nurturing state and had limited intelligence. It was equivalent to a 7 or 8-year-old human child. Su Fang's few words had instigated it, and it had been fooled. Not only did it fail to see through Su Fang's intentions, but it was also complacent. Puff! Su Fang felt an invisible barrier inside his body being penetrated by the blood threads, and then began to shatter. It was the shackles of the great taboo art that sealed the space deep inside his body. Finally, part of the success. Su Fang was so excited that he almost screamed. The power of the grand taboo art was mainly used to shackle the Tao Palace, Dharmakaya, and Tao Heart. The seal that shackled the physical body was the weakest. Therefore, the Blood King Vine Seed was the first to penetrate and break through. He kept his storage ring, Xian Bao, and other items in the Jiuquan Taoist Palace and the internal space of his Dharmakaya. As for the space in the depths of the body, it was where the ghosts and stone spirits were placed. Now that the physical body seal had been broken, it meant that Su Fang could freely release the ghost spirits and stone spirits. With Su Fang's current strength and the various extraordinary methods he had mastered, there were very few occasions where he could use ghost spirits and stone essence. However, this did not mean that Gue and stone spirit were not strong enough. The stone spirit was an earth-type spirit that Su Fang had subdued when he first came to the eastern profound divine realm. It could release an astonishing amount of gravity. Over the years, Su Fang had been constantly nurturing it with various spiritual items that contained earth-type essence. The gravitational field released by the stone spirit could even easily shackle a Daolord expert. Gue had previously devoured the sky-piercing blood vines, so its poison was equally astonishing. Now that he had them, Su Fang more or less had confidence in his heart. However, now was not the time for Gue and Stone Spirit to display their strength. He had to let the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed continue to help him break through the shackles of the grand taboo art. Sizzle. The densely packed blood threads were like strands of hair as they continuously penetrated the grand taboo art seal. However, to Su Fangda's disappointment, the blood threads attack gradually weakened. The blood threads that enveloped Yang Shengtian were all transferred to Su Fang by the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. However, they still could not continue to shake the grand taboo art. The grand taboo art was indeed worthy of being the top peerless divine ability in the Jiuquan God realm. After all, the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed was still in a nurturing state. After breaking through the grand taboo art seal in the depths of Su Fang's physical body, it was almost exhausted and could not continue. Aren't you very powerful? You boast so loudly, but in the end, you're just a weakling. Ha! Do all sky-piercing Blood King Vines like to boast? How could Su Fang let go of the chance to break free from the shackles of the grand taboo art so easily? He had to continue to add fuel to the fire. Therefore, Su Fang mocked and ridiculed again. Low-level human, how dare you mock me? The sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed was completely enraged. The ball of blood suddenly exploded, and a vine covered with sharp thorns wriggled out from within. It was like a ferocious monster as it shot towards Su Fang. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed had actually revealed its true form and was about to completely devour Su Fang. Whoosh! The vine immediately entangled Su Fang tightly. Countless wisps of blood gushed out from the vine and rapidly penetrated Su Fang's body. They were 100 times more terrifying than before as they madly surged toward Su Fang's Taoist palace. Su Fang's heart was filled with anticipation. Puff! Su Fang sensed that the Jiuquan Taoist palace trembled, and an invisible shackle was torn apart. It felt like a balloon being poked. The shackles of the grand taboo art were finally torn apart. Although it did not completely collapse, a crack was torn open. Su Fang could clearly sense that the barrier between the Jiuquan Taoist palace and the Jiuquan Taoist palace had disappeared. This feeling was incomparably comfortable, as if a person who had been shackled in water had finally poked his head out of the water and breathed in fresh air. Su Fangdao was so surprised and overjoyed that he almost could not help but loudly praise the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. Suddenly, the cracks in the shackles formed by the grand taboo technique were closing up at an astonishing speed. Furthermore, there was a backlash that was unleashed. It was about to devour and seal up the strands of blood. Oh no, I didn't expect that the grand taboo art could release a backlash force after being attacked. His hope was about to be extinguished. Su Fang's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Su Fang's heart was filled with unwillingness. Low-level human, what kind of restriction is that? It's definitely not a Taoist palace defense that a low-level human like you can display. Damn it, I was fooled by you. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed finally reacted. It hurriedly retracted the wisps of blood and was about to give up on swallowing Su Fang. Little did it know, the power of the grand taboo art had been triggered. How could it be quelled so easily? A terrifying power that could break everything wrapped around the sky-piercing Blood King Vine and sucked it into Su Fang's Taoist palace. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed was shocked and angry, but it could not resist the power of the grand taboo art. It was sucked into Su Fang's Taoist palace bit by bit, and then shackled by the grand taboo art. Su Fang did not expect such a result. He could not help but be stunned. But the matter was far from over. Hiss, 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 hiss. The boundary outside the blood-red space suddenly turned blood-red, and a vast and endless aura was injected into the boundary. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed was connected to the surrounding space boundary like blood-red meridians. Immediately, an astonishing amount of blood chi gushed out from them and poured into the vines formed by the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. Swish, swish. QL11 The vines grew crazily in an instant, as if dancing in the wind, trying to get rid of the shackles of the grand taboo art. At this time, the power that it burst out was 100 times, or even 10,000 times more powerful than before. The sudden change made Su Fang dumbfounded. Daozu of Shixian's voice suddenly sounded again. Be careful. That's the mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King Vine. It's injecting its power into the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed through the endless space. You're in danger now. The mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King Vine? Su Fang trembled with fear. Even Shixian Daozu of Shixian was afraid of the alien race. He was just a Dao Lord cultivator who was shackled by the grand taboo art. How could he not be afraid? Fortunately, the mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King Vine only projected its power and did not descend in its true form. Otherwise, Su Fang would not hesitate to use one of his chances and let Shixian Daozu attack directly. The only thing he could do now was to wait and see if there was an opportunity to take advantage of. Boom! The power of the vines collided with the power of the grand taboo art. It felt like a big tree was pulled out of the ground by a great force, and the roots pulled out tore the ground apart. The shackles of the grand taboo art finally began to break. Now's the chance. Taking advantage of the moment when the seal of the grand taboo art was broken, Su Fang's primordial spirit avatar and the spider flashed out of the seal inside the Jiuquan Dao Palace. Then, Su Fang directly transferred them to the deep space of his physical body. Just as he was about to continue releasing the other avatars from the seal, the vines transformed from the sky-piercing Blood King Vine Seed broke free from the shackles of the grand taboo art. The crack in the seal of the Dao Palace quickly began to heal. The grand taboo art was so extraordinary. Apart from the seal that shackled the physical body, the seal that imprisoned the Dao Palace could recover after it was broken, and the speed of recovery was so fast. However, the power of the seal was more than half depleted, and it was far less powerful than before. Lowly human, you want to seal my son in vain. Then, I'll let your flesh and blood become the nutrients for my offspring. A thought that was filled with evil and endless majesty rumbled in Su Fang's mind. There was no need to guess. The thought came from the mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King Vine. You want to devour my Su Fang? How can I let you do as you wish? Su Fang let out a domineering sneer in his heart. Swoosh, swoosh. The The blood vines tightly wrapped around Su Fang's physical body and began to devour Su Fang's vitality and blood. The mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King vine was not so easy to fool. It had already seen that Su Fang's Dao Palace and Dao Heart were shackled by a powerful seal. Once the seal was touched, he would suffer a backlash. Therefore, it controlled the vines transformed from the seed to devour Su Fang's physical body directly. As long as Su Fang's physical body died, the avatars would not be a threat. You only realized it now, but it's a pity that it's too late. Su Fang's eyes flashed with ruthlessness and decisiveness. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. From the depths of his body, the spider suddenly shot out strands of incorporeal spider silk, entangling the blood-colored vines that had infiltrated his body. Then, he began to wantonly devour the heaven-piercing Blood King vine seed's fate. Chapter 2781. That's a luck spider. Damn it. Why is a luck spider suppressed by the human race appearing in a little human cultivator like you? That damned luck spider. Whoever touches it will be unlucky. Damn it, damn it. Why did I run into it? The consciousness of the sky-piercing Blood King vine was filled with shock and fear. According to Shi Xian Daozu, the sky-piercing Blood King vine was a top life form born from the chaos. There were very few things that could make it feel afraid. The main reason was that the luck spider was too famous. It had once devoured the luck of a powerful alien race, causing the entire race to be destroyed. Whoever touched it would be unlucky. Who wouldn't be afraid? No, that's just a baby luck spider. It's not the luck spider suppressed by the Destiny platform. Damn it. How can another luck spider be born in the human world? The sky-piercing Blood King vine quickly understood. However, even though it understood, there was nothing it could do. The sky-piercing Blood King vine could pierce through the sky and earth. At the same time, it was almost immortal and indestructible. However, it couldn't resist the ability to devour luck. You're just a little human cultivator. With such a cultivation level, you actually have a luck spider that defies the natural order. If I don't kill you, the human race will have 2 luck spiders. Which race will be able to suppress the rise of the human race in the future? The sky-piercing Blood King vine was a top life form after all. Although it was terrified of the luck spider, it actually aroused its desire to kill Su Fang. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. Suddenly, a vast amount of life energy gushed out from the vines and merged with Su Fang's body. Not only was the life energy high level, it also contained a terrifying power that could reverse life energy. This kind of reverse was actually a kind of poisonous change. It would accelerate the growth of life energy until it reached the limit of the body's endurance, causing it to walk towards death. As the life energy poured into Su Fang's body, the blood and qi inside began to boil and burn. His entire body began to expand. His body was madly growing in reverse. 1 zhang, 2 zhang, 3 zhang. Su Fang was like a rubber ball that was constantly injected with gas. In just a few breaths' time, he had expanded into a 15 zhang giant. His hair grew crazily, and veins popped out of his skin. He no longer looked like a human, but a deformed monster. It was not a transformation like the giant transformation of the diamond body, which was completely out of Su Fang's control. In the end, it would only result in his body exploding. If it wasn't for Su Fang's perfect body, which allowed his body to grow to such an extent, he would have long exploded into a pool of blood. However, there was a limit to his perfect physical body. He couldn't hold on for long, and he still couldn't escape the fate of exploding and dying. A low-level existence like you actually has such a powerful body and tenacious life force. You're just right to nurture my son. The will of the sky-piercing Blood King vine's mother body was cold and proud, but at the same time, it was rapidly weakening. The luck spider was madly devouring its fate, causing it to suffer heavy losses. However, this made it even more determined to kill Su Fang. The majestic life force passed through the boundless space-time, passed through the boundary of space, and endlessly seeped into Su Fang's body, causing his body to grow even more crazily. I guess I'll have to disappoint you. The one who will die is you and your child. Su Fong suddenly revealed a domineering smile, which looked very strange. Heaven's secret life, shrinking art, life, severing saber, life, severing saber, life, severing fate. Su Fong executed the Heaven's secret life, shrinking art, and this time he used all his strength to execute the Heaven's secret life, shrinking art on the sky-piercing Blood King vine, and use the life-severing saber to sever its fate. How terrifying would the life force Su Fong expend be? Although it was only a trace of the sky-piercing Blood King vine's mother body's divine consciousness, the price he had to pay was huge, and it was definitely not something Su Fong could bear with his current cultivation level. However, Su Fong's life force was in a state of frenzied growth. The life force expended by executing the Heaven's secret life, shrinking art, would not be a burden to him. Instead, it would save his life. This was Su Fong's true trump card. Qi. The aura of Tao runes broke through the shackles of the great taboo art and condensed into the life-severing saber. It ruthlessly slashed down on the vines that had penetrated into the body. The first unlucky one was the consciousness of the sky-piercing Blood King vine seed. Under the power of the life-severing saber, it was instantly annihilated. The consciousness of the mother body that was residing in the vines was also shattered, but it was not completely annihilated. This saber strike had expended a huge amount of Su Fong's life force. It caused his body that was originally on the verge of exploding to become like a deflated balloon. It rapidly shrunk to a height of more than 10 meters. The divine ability of the Heavenly Fate stage. You are a cultivator of the Heavenly Fate stage? The mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King vine was shocked again. It immediately threatened. Human, you killed my son and ruined my plan. Moreover, you have the Weaver Spider. I will never let you go again. Life-severing saber. Su Fong executed the Heaven's secret life, shrinking art again. The life-severing saber that was condensed by the aura of Tao runes once again slashed down on the Blood King vine. No matter how powerful the mother body was, it was only a consciousness that traveled through time and space. How could it withstand the life-severing saber's 2 consecutive attacks? Under the fierce and domineering power of the life-severing saber, the consciousness of the mother body of the sky-piercing Blood King vine was completely obliterated. Puff! Su Fong's body rapidly shrunk and returned to the size of a normal human. He then opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Master, Yang Xingtian had also had his life force and cultivation devoured by the sky-piercing Blood King vine, but it was not enough to kill him. Seeing Su Fong's heavily injured appearance, Yang Xingtian immediately cried out in alarm. Su Fong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Although his aura seemed to be somewhat weak, his eyes were shining with a hale and hearty splendor. He was in high spirits. This time, he had used his own strength and, more importantly, his intelligence to win a chance of survival in the midst of a near-death crisis. Shixin Daozu suddenly spoke. Su Fong, your performance this time has amazed even Master. Originally, Master was prepared to act at any moment. Who would have thought that you would resolve it in such a way? Not bad, you are very good. Su Fong was very happy to receive Shixin Daozu's praise. Next, Su Fong hurriedly inspected his physical body. He found to his shock that the sky-piercing Blood King vine seed had seeped into every corner of his physical body. His flesh, bones, meridians, they were all inseparable blood patterns that had merged with his physical body. I actually merged with the sky-piercing Blood King vine seed. Su Fong was dumbstruck. He was completely dumbstruck. Accident. A great accident. He did not know if this accident was a blessing or a curse for Su Fong. Fortune. It's really a great fortune. Shixin Daozu, who had been silent in the depths of Su Fong's body, suddenly spoke again. His tone was filled with surprise. Su Fong's spirit was instantly lifted. It's a good thing? Of course it's a good thing. It's a great fortune that ordinary cultivators would scramble for. Shixin Daozu chuckled. How powerful is the sky-piercing Blood King vine? You merged with the sky-piercing Blood King vine, which means you have the ability of the sky-piercing Blood King vine. It means you have cultivated a Dharma body. It means you have a special Xian body. If this is not a great fortune, then what is it? Su Fang instantly understood. He had cultivated the dragon-subduing real body before, because he had merged with the dragon-subduing wood. Therefore, he had obtained the wood element ability of the dragon-subduing wood. This time, he had merged with the sky-piercing Blood King vine, which was very similar to the dragon-subduing real body. However, it was not the real body, but the Xian body that surpassed the godly body. From then on, he had unimaginable abilities. The sky-piercing Blood King vine had a powerful life that was close to being immortal and indestructible. It also had the terrifying ability to pierce through heaven and earth and devour everything. As long as Su Fang continued to cultivate, it meant he had the extraordinary ability of the sky-piercing Blood King vine. Fortune, great fortune, QL 11-inch luck, and also not luck. This is your reward for taking the risk to kill the seed of the sky-piercing Blood King vine. Ha ha! This ancestor has taken in a disciple with great fortune and wisdom like you. This ancestor is really lucky. Shishin Daozu laughed loudly. Then his voice gradually faded and disappeared in Su Fang's mind. I didn't expect to have such a fortuitous encounter in this trip to the well of divine blood. Su Fang connected his body with the Jiushuan Dao Palace and couldn't help but laugh loudly. Even though the Jiushuan Dao Palace was still confined by the Grand Taboo Art, the might of the shackles had been weakened by more than half, and it would be completely eradicated sooner or later. Moreover, Su Fang had released his essence soul avatar, the Spider, and the Stone Spirit. So, even if he faced a peak Dao Lord now, he still wouldn't be afraid. His greatest gain was still the fusion with the sky-piercing Blood King vine. He was just about to carefully sense the sky-piercing Blood King vine and see how much ability it could exert. Suddenly, bang, 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 the blood-red space shook violently, and then it started to show signs of collapse. Let's go. Su Fang couldn't be bothered to check the sky-piercing Blood King vine. He asked Yang Shengtian to quickly absorb it into the Dao Palace, and then he swiftly flew out of the well of divine blood. Yang Shengtian's speed was limited. Fortunately, the speed at which the space collapsed wasn't very fast. So, Yang Shengtian flew out of the space at the bottom and arrived at the exit of the well of divine blood before it completely collapsed. A powerful barrier had sealed the exit. With Yang Shengtian's strength and the fact that a lot of his vitality and cultivation had been devoured, it was difficult for him to shake the barrier in the slightest. He could only ask Su Fang, "Master, what should we do?" "It's fine." If it was in the past, Su Fang really wouldn't be able to do anything about this barrier. But it was different now. He came out of Yang Shengtian's Dao Palace, and then he released Gui Gui. Gui Gui opened its mouth and spat out a black blood poison. It turned into a cloud of blood mist and fell on the barrier. Sizzle. Wherever the black blood mist swept, the barrier was actually corroded layer by layer, and finally a large hole was corroded. After devouring the sky-piercing Blood King vine, Gui Gui's poison became even more powerful. Not only could it corrode a cultivator's physical body and matter, it could even corrode the energy of nothingness and barriers. Su Fang absorbed Gui Gui into his body, and then Yang Shengtian put it into the Dao Palace before flying out of the gap in the barrier. Chapter 2782. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Over a dozen figures flew over from the surroundings of the well of divine blood. They were the cultivators from ancient Azure City that Yang Shengtian had encountered in the well of divine blood, and there were also 3 experts from unknown powers. More than a dozen people looked at Yang Shengtian in surprise and shock. Even though the mysterious aura of life that emerged from the well of divine blood was extremely beneficial to the recovery of a cultivator's body, it was also extremely lethal. These cultivators had no choice but to be extremely careful when they stayed outside the well of divine blood to absorb the mysterious aura of life. It was truly inconceivable that this piece of trash, Yang Shengtian, was actually safe and sound after entering the well of divine blood. Trespassing and breaking the seal is a capital offense. The yellow-browed old man from ancient Azure City spoke in a ghastly voice. The red-haired young man pounced towards Yang Xingtian with a cruel and complacent grin on his face. Yang Xingtian, I originally intended to spare your life and slowly torture you in the future. Now that you're courting death, you can't blame me. Yang Xingtian was terrified and panicked when he suddenly faced so many experts, and there were even peerless experts at the upper Downlord realm amongst them. At this moment, Su Fang's voice resounded in Yang Shengtian's mind. Were you afraid of with me here? I'll help you take back those who bullied you earlier. Yang Shengtian's spirits were instantly raised. Thank you, master. Immediately, he shouted loudly at the red-haired youth. Qi Zi Cheng, when this young master was in power, you were like a dog in front of this young master. Now that this young master has lost power, you turn around and step on this young master's head. What qualifications does a despicable person like you have to live in this world? A piece of trash like a dead dog dares to bark before me? The red-haired young man sneered with disdain as a thought flashed through his mind. Instantly, a raging sea of flames swept out, and it contained extraordinary Tao aura, and that could incinerate one's Tao heart and soul. It was about to melt Yang Shengtian. A crack suddenly split open between Yang Shengtian's brows, and a strand of ethereal soul essence swept out like a tide. The soul essence contained the boundless profundities of the primal chaos. After it fused into space, it immediately drew upon the energy of the heavens and the earth to form a heaven and earth grand formation that enveloped the red-haired young man's attack and his body within the formation. Formation with a single thought. It turned out that in Yang Shengtian's Tao Palace, Su Fang had used his essence soul dharma body to cast the Tao of array formations. With a thought, he created an array formation that sealed and shackled Qi Zicheng. Su Fang's primordial soul dharmakaya had used the Luo Tian wheel and the Tian Yanxian Jie to practice the way of array formation. Although he was only a level 2 array formation master, his understanding of the array formation, coupled with his powerful thoughts, combined with the Tian Yanxian Jie, could already achieve the amazing level of array formation with one thought. This was the astonishing strength that Su Fang had obtained from possessing a primordial spirit dharmakaya and mastering the Tao of formation. He could form a formation with a single thought and turn his thoughts into a great formation of heaven and earth. He could trap his enemies and kill them invisibly. The red-haired young man, Qi Zicheng, fell into the formation and was crushed by the Tao aura, will, and natural energy contained within the formation. His attacks were shattered layer by layer, and in the end, his physical body and avatar perished under the formation's divine might. Thank you, Master. Master is mighty. Yang Xingtian was overjoyed to see his enemy dead. He sent a message to Su Fang, which was filled with excitement and gratitude. An array formation attack, and it has reached the level of array formation with one thought. Could there be a powerful array formation master hiding within Yang Shengtian's Tao Palace? The cultivators from ancient Blue City and the other 3 Tao Lords of unknown origins were all surprised and shocked. The yellow-browed old man shouted with a murderous aura. Yang Shantan disobeyed the city lord's decree and killed a fellow disciple. His crime is unforgivable. Kill him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 7 ancient Blue City cultivators charged towards Yang Shengtian at the same time. Yang Shengtian, let me control your physical body and dharmakaya. Su Fang immediately merged his primordial soul dharmakaya with Yang Shengtian's physical body. Yang Shengtian then merged his dharmakaya with his physical body. In this way, Su Fang could also use his dharmakaya abilities with his primordial soul dharmakaya. Yang Shengtian stretched out his hand and grabbed out flames. They were not ordinary flames, but the 9 suns' primordial fire cultivated by his dharmakaya. Whoosh, whoosh. Streams of true fire shot out and interweaved into a vast array, releasing a terrifying divine flame might that was 10 times stronger than Yang Shengtian's strength. It enveloped the 7 ancient Blue City cultivators, and the blazing divine flame might began to burn wildly. The ancient Blue City cultivators never expected that Yang Shengtian, who was trash in their eyes, would suddenly become so powerful. Caught off guard, 3 of them were seriously injured by the Nine Suns' primordial fire. The others were also trapped in the flames of the array formation and were unable to escape. Yang Shengtian was like a fire god. His entire body was filled with terrifying Nine Suns Taoist rhymes. He revealed a dominating and domineering aura as he charged into the array formation. When this young master was in power, your family committed a grave mistake and was about to be exterminated by the city lord. You knelt in front of this young master's cave for 3 years. In the end, this young master pitied you and pleaded with the city lord. Only then was your family saved. However, when I lost power, you and Qi Ziqing bullied me wantonly. Die. Yang Shengtian relied on the divine might of the array formation to shackle a young man within flames, and his eyes burned with flames of rage as he gazed at the young man. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Shengtian released a strand of thought and directly incinerated the young man into ash. You were originally this young master's follower. Once this young master lost power, you sought refuge with other senior brothers and even stole this young master's supreme Xianbao. After that, this young master asked for it, yet you framed me instead, causing this young master to be punished and treated coldly by the city lord. You deserve death as well. Yang Shengtian's killing intent surged as another strand of thought annihilated another ancient Blue City cultivator. You deserve death. You die. Yang Shengtian relied on the might of the array formation to annihilate numerous ancient Blue City cultivators. For a time, he was peerlessly domineering, and he wasn't a piece of trash that was in dire straits any longer. He was a peerless figure that was awe-inspiring. There's something strange about this Yang Shengtian. How did his strength suddenly become so formidable? Could it be that he obtained some sort of fortune from the well of god blood? The yellow-browed old man was extremely surprised. The strength Yang Shengtian revealed caused even an expert at the Tao Lord realm like him to be shocked and horrified. At this moment, the yellow-browed old man had no choice but to make a move himself. He released a strand of thought, and it instantly transformed into an enormous palm print that rumbled down towards Yang Shengtian with a might to suppress the heavens and the earth. The array formation rumbled as it shattered. At this moment, only 3 of the 7 ancient Blue City experts that had fallen into the array formation remained. All of them were heavily injured, and all of them looked at Yang Shengtian with astonishment. Huff, a dark figure flashed out from Yang Shengtian's Tao Palace, and then it transformed into an expanse of black-colored blood that swept towards the palm print in the sky with a swish. Hiss! Everywhere the blood tide passed, the divine might of the palm print, the aura of the Tao, and the pressure of will were actually corroded layer by layer before transforming into green smoke that dispersed into the air. It turned out that it was Su Fong who'd released the Blood Ghost. The Blood Ghost was a monster that was born from fresh blood. After it surpassed the height of the Pangang universe, besides still possessing a body of toxic poison, its form was able to change between the state of blood and flesh like before. At this moment, the Blood Ghost had transformed into a pool of blood that enveloped the palm print like a tide. Under the infiltration and corrosion of the toxic poison, the palm print formed from the yellow-browed old man's thoughts vanished without a trace. Whoosh, the Blood Ghost let out a wave of strange cries, and then it transformed into a blood python that pounced towards the yellow-browed old man. QL 11-inch, what sort of monster is this? Could this be the fortune Yang Shengtian obtained from the well of god blood? The yellow-browed old man was shocked, and he hurriedly exerted all his strength to deal with the Blood Ghost. After this person entered the well of god blood, the aura of life no longer effused out from it. Moreover, there was a huge commotion from before. Something has definitely happened inside. quickly suppress this person and go down to investigate. If any mishap occurs, then all of us will be unable to escape death. The old man in the lead of the three Tao lords who wore simple clothes from an unknown power had a solemn expression as he gave the order to attack Yang Xingtian. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A middle-aged man whose cultivation had reached the lower Tao Lord realm instantly released over a dozen thoughts that transformed into numerous Xian Guang, flashing flying daggers. They formed a dagger formation that whistled towards Yang Xingtian. Yang Xingtian waved his hand and swept out a ball of black stuff. Suddenly, a shocking gravity erupted from it and formed a gravitational field. Under the terrifying gravity, the dagger formation suddenly slowed down, and then it buzzed and trembled. In the end, the thoughts collapsed and turned into nothingness. It was a burly man with a dark face. He wasn't tall, but he was mighty and majestic. He was the human form that the stone spirit had transformed into after evolving. I've followed Master for so many years, yet I rarely had the chance to fight. How depressing. This time, I've dealt with a Tao Lord. Hee, I have to satisfy my craving. The burly man with a dark face chuckled. He shook his arms, and a shocking gravity erupted from him and enveloped the middle-aged Tao Lord. There's actually such an extraordinary figure in ancient Blue City who has endless formidable techniques. The old man in the lead was extremely surprised. He waved his hand, and the other middle-aged cultivator beside him finally made a move. The middle-aged cultivator executed a thought attack, and it actually erupted with the divine might of the heavenly Tao. It instantly transformed into a low-level universe that shackled Yang Xingtian within. The Great Sun Tao. These three Tao Lords are actually experts from the Great Sun Tao. Could it be that the heavenly venerable Pan Song is colluding with the Great Sun Tao? Su Fong was shocked and astonished in Yang Xingtian's Tao Palace. The Great Sun Tao, the heavenly venerable Pan Song, coupled with the heaven-piercing blood king vine in the well of divine blood. Su Fong connected the three together and instantly deduced many things, and huge waves surged in his heart. Su Fong had once speculated that the Great Sun Tao was a force that was secretly controlled by the evil god when he descended. At this moment, the experts of the Great Sun Tao and the cultivators of ancient Blue City had appeared in the well of divine blood that gave birth to the heaven-piercing Blood King vine. It was obviously impossible to say that there was no connection between the three. He would never have thought that the heavenly venerable Pan Song would be so deranged that he actually started to collude with the foreign tribes. As long as I catch the old man in the lead, I'll search him and strip his memories, and I'll know everything. Su Fong made a decision in a flash. He immediately activated the heaven-piercing Blood King vine in his body, and it seeped out from Yang Xingtian's body. Chapter 2783. The middle-aged Tao Lord from the Great Sun Limitless sect was obviously one of the higher-ups of the sect, and the cultivation technique he cultivated was the Jiuxuan Limitless Scripture. Of course, it wasn't the scripture that Su Fong cultivated. Instead, it was the same as the exalted celestial Pan Song, and it was a flawed scripture. This person was very extraordinary. He'd actually cultivated his own world and universe, and could transform into a low-level world and universe with a thought. Su Fong didn't want to expose himself for now, so he activated the Skypiercer Blood King vine through Yang Xingtian's body. Hiss, 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 hiss. In about 10 breaths of time, the universe collapsed, and Yang Xingtian returned to the real world. The vines danced and wrapped around the middle-aged Tao Lord. Skypiercer Blood King vine? A human cultivator can actually control an evil life form like the Skypiercer Blood King vine. The middle-aged Tao Lord was extremely shocked. The old man from the Great Sun Limitless sect frowned as well, and his eyes revealed disbelief. Even the Skypiercer Blood King vine can't save your life. The middle-aged Tao Lord thought that Yang Xingtian was controlling an ordinary Skypiercer Blood King vine. Moreover, it looked like it was only 300 meters long, and it was obviously not an adult yet. He thought that it would only be slightly troublesome for a Tao Lord like him, so he immediately scoffed. Don't be careless. Something's not right. The old man from the Great Sun Limitless sect was quite knowledgeable, and he immediately warned when he sensed that the aura within the vines was slightly unusual. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The middle-aged Tao Lord released numerous thoughts and erupted with a shocking aura that could split the heavens and earth in an attempt to shatter the Skypiercer Blood King vine. Unexpectedly, the Skypiercer Blood King vine suddenly expanded and pierced through the layers of attacks before it wrapped around the middle-aged Tao Lord. Hiss, 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 hiss. The middle-aged Tao Lord's vitality, blood, cultivation, and origin spirit were swiftly devoured by the Skypiercer Blood King vine. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine was just so tyrannical. Although it was only a seed of the heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan, Su Fong could kill Tao Lords as easily as killing chickens. The middle-aged man from the Great Sun Limitless path sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief as he looked at the blood-red vine. The blood vine twisted and turned, and with a whoosh, it extended toward the yellow-browed elder who was fighting with Gue Gue. The yellow-browed elder was focusing all his energy on dealing with Gue Gue. He was instantly enveloped by the vines, and the blood quickly seeped into his body. Soon, he followed in the footsteps of the Great Sun Limitless sect cultivator. He was sucked dry and turned into a human skin, which eventually crumbled into dust. The Great Sun Limitless Tao cultivator who was fighting with the stone essence originally had the upper hand. But when he saw how terrifying the heaven-piercing Blood King vine was, he was so scared that he lost his will to fight. However, he was entangled by the stone essence and could not escape. Next, Gue Gue flew over as well. Working together with the stone spirit, the man was now in imminent danger. You're absolutely not the disciple of ancient Blue City's governor, Yang Xingtian. Who exactly are you? The old man from the Great Sun Limitless path shouted in a low voice, and then he controlled a golden xianbao with a thought that hung high above Yang Xingtian. The xianbao was extremely extraordinary. Based on its aura, it was probably a peak top-grade xianbao. Moreover, it was a comparatively rare xianbao that attacked the soul and consciousness. Looks like I have no choice but to make a move myself. Su Fong withdrew the blood-red vine back into his body and intended to release his soul core avatar to kill the old man. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine was still in a nurturing state, so was unable to utilize its ability for a long period of time. So, Su Fong was worried that it would be injured in a battle with an upper Tao Lord. However, it was sufficient to prove how terrifying it was. It was already able to easily devour an expert at the lower Tao Lord realm now. So how shocking would it be once it was nurtured successfully and matured into an adult state? Su Fong was just about to release his soul core avatar when his divine light suddenly changed slightly, and he revealed a vigilant expression while he abandoned his intention to attack. Who's there? Get the fuck out here. The old man was stunned, and then he activated the bell with a thought, causing it to emanate numerous strands of golden light that charged towards the surroundings. About 100 miles behind the old man, more than 20 figures appeared. Every single one of these people was below the age of 30, and most of them were at the Tao Lord realm. However, their auras were extraordinary and mysterious. Moreover, all of them were handsome, mighty, and had their own merits. Su Fong relied on Yang Shengtian's eyes to instantly recognize 3 figures, and his brows instantly raised like swords. One of the extraordinary young men amongst them was Ling Xingchen. There was another young man that Su Fong was familiar with as well, Dong Xianjun. Compared to when he was in Blood Gorge, Dong Xianjun had become much more depressed. His expression had lost its composure and domineering aura, and it carried a trace of ruthlessness instead. In the second-star killer city, he had been severely defeated by Su Fong, and even his Tao heart had been damaged. How could he not be depressed now? The other black-robed young man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His appearance was ordinary, but he had a unique manly charm. His deep eyes shone with a domineering luster under his sword-like eyebrows, and his long black hair, draped over his shoulders, exuding an unruly and domineering aura. Dong Xinzheng. He did not expect to see Dong Xinzheng here. Compared to when they met in the Pansong universe, Dong Xinzheng had become more reserved, and his aura was more powerful. His cultivation was also astonishing, reaching the middle Daolord realm. In the Jiuquan divine realm, Daolords were not considered true experts. However, when Dong Xinzheng went to the Pansong universe, he was only a Daolord realm cultivator. It had only been a few years, but he could become a Daolord. It was enough to show that his talent was extraordinary. Dong Xinzheng, your growth is indeed fast, but compared to Su Fong, you're still far inferior. You're not even qualified to be my opponent now. Inside Yang Shengtian's Dao Palace, Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. Dong Xinzheng was indeed extraordinary, but compared to Dong Xinjun, he was still slightly inferior. He could not compare to Su Fong at all. Su Fong had countless powerful divine powers, and he also had the 6 extreme Dao Saint Dharma body, the spider, and had just merged with the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine Seed. Anyone whose trump cards could crush Dong Xinzheng. There was no comparison. Dong Xinzheng could not compare to Su Fong at all. Although he had an extraordinary Xian body, was extremely talented in cultivation, and was a disciple of the Daozu, he was like a flower that grew in a greenhouse. He lacked Su Fong's life and death tempering, and he did not have Su Fong's tenacious Dao heart and heaven-defying luck. Compared to Su Fong, he naturally paled in comparison. Dong Xinzheng, you came to the heaven-forsaken barren region at the right time. Once I have the chance, I will not hesitate to suppress you and search your soul. If anything happens to my grandfather's soul, I will make you regret being born. Su Fong made a decision in his heart. He would wait for an opportunity to suppress Dong Xinzheng and find out the whereabouts of his grandfather's soul. Then, Su Fong began to size up the other cultivators. These cultivators were all extraordinary. They were obviously peerless geniuses from the top forces of the Eastern Xian divine domain. They also didn't know why they had gathered together, and suddenly appeared in this desolate, ancient blue city's wilderness. Eastern Xian Heaven Pavilion, 3 highest profound sects, Luo Shao Sword Sect. The elder from the Great Sun Limitless Sect was stunned when he saw so many peerless geniuses appear at once. After calming himself down, the elder said in a deep voice, I am Luo Guokai from the Great Sun Limitless Sect. May I know why you geniuses are here? Dong Xian Jun shouted gloomily. I am the geniuses from the Heaven Pavilion, 3 highest profound sects, Luo Shao Sword Sect, and other forces are here to train in the ancient Blue City. We heard that the well of divine blood appeared here, so we came to check it out. You are here for the well of divine blood? The Great Sun Limitless Sect elder's pupils shrank slightly. Ling Xingqian shouted domineeringly. The Heaven Pavilion has already found out that the Great Sun Limitless Sect is secretly colluding with the foreign races. The Heaven Pavilion and other forces have ordered us disciples in the heaven-forsaken desolate region to investigate the truth. This well of divine blood must be related to the foreign races. Why don't you surrender and confess the Great Sun Limitless Sect's scheme? Su Fong finally understood why these geniuses had appeared here. Back then, Su Fong had speculated that the Great Sun Limitless Sect was related to the evil god's descent. Shixian Daozu must have secretly leaked the information to Dongxian Daozu. Naturally, the Eastern Xian Heaven Pavilion would investigate. Coincidentally, the ancient Blue City had gathered many mortals and attracted the attention of these geniuses. Therefore, they all rushed to the ancient Blue City. The Heaven Pavilion wants to get rid of the Great Sun Limitless Sect, but they accuse them of colluding with the foreign races. If you want to condemn someone, why worry about the pretext? You juniors aren't qualified to suppress me. The old man made a prompt decision. He activated the Xian Bao that was like a bell, and it erupted with a shocking wave of energy that swept towards those geniuses. After that, the old man activated a talisman. It was actually an extremely extraordinary teleportation talisman. It emanated the divine might of warping space, and it was about to teleport him away. Suddenly, The space around the old man was warped and fluctuated by the teleportation talisman. Suddenly, it seemed as if it had been sealed in ice, and it shackled the old man along with the surroundings. The might of the teleportation talisman was suppressed as well, and then it started burning with a hiss and transformed into a ball of ash. After that, a figure walked out from the void in an extremely abrupt manner. It was a black-clothed young man around the age of 17. He had a handsome appearance, and his cultivation was at the Downlord realm. Moreover, he emanated an extraordinary aura of a ruler. Gu Tianqi. Within Yang Xingtian's Dao Palace, Su Fang almost cried out involuntarily with shock. Shockingly, the black-clothed young man was the #1 disciple of the three supreme profound sects, the peerless genius who had sealed Su Fang with the grand taboo art, Gu Tianqi. Su Fang rubbed the tip of his nose as he sneered in his heart. Gu Tianqi has actually come as well. I didn't expect that practically all my enemies in the Eastern Xian divine domain would be here. It can be said that this is a gathering of the winds and clouds. Chapter 2784. The old man from the Great Sun sect snorted. The #1 disciple of the three supreme mysterious sects is indeed extraordinary. However, do you think I'll let you do as you wish? Dong Xianjun said coldly. Although I disdain using soul-searching techniques, I can make an exception to deal with a puppet of a foreign race like you. I'll burn my soul origin. How are you going to search me? The old man sneered in disdain, and then his Dao Palace and soul suddenly burned and released terrifying flames. The might of his self-immolation transformed into a blood-red, evil sun that brewed in the shackles of space and was about to erupt with shocking might. Su Fang, who was in the Yangsheng Dao Palace, instantly had an extremely familiar feeling when he saw this scene. The blood-red evil sun was actually exactly the same as the blood sun that had devoured the Pongsong universe. Now, he could absolutely conclude that the Great Sun sect was directly related to the evil god's descent into the world. The evil sun was about to explode. Gu Tianqi raised his brows as a thought flashed out from between his brows and transformed into a spatial divine might that enveloped the old man and the surroundings. Then, the space in that area suddenly collapsed and directly devoured the evil sun that the old man had transformed into and the surrounding space. Gu Tianqi had casually executed such a shocking ability, and it made the other geniuses feel admiration. Dong Xianjun's deep eyes were filled with jealousy. The old man in the lead of the Great Sun sect had perished, and a remaining Downlord expert was besieged by Gue and the Stone Spirit. In his panic, he self-imploded and blasted Gue and the Stone Spirit away, while his avatar seized the opportunity to flee. Unexpectedly, Dong Xianjun was prepared. A murderous aura shot out from his eyes and struck the middle-aged cultivator. With a miserable cry, the middle-aged cultivator fell to the ground and was restrained by Dong Xianjun. The other three cultivators from the ancient Azure City were about to flee in panic, but they were all suppressed by the other geniuses. Not a single one escaped. Dong Xianjun searched the soul of the middle-aged cultivator from the Great Sun sect, but he was greatly disappointed. The middle-aged cultivator had actually burned his soul source. Although he did not transform into Xie Yang like the old man, he had become a living dead, leaving behind only an empty shell of his Dharma body. As for the three ancient Blue City cultivators, they knew nothing about the limitless Great Sun path. They also knew very little about the ancient Blue City's plan. From their memories, they could not obtain any useful information. More than a dozen geniuses flew into the well of divine blood to investigate what was happening inside. While no one was paying attention to him, Yang Xingtian sucked the ghost spirits and stone spirits into his body. They were taken into the depths of Su Fang's body. Just as Yang Xingtian was about to leave, Dong Xianjun suddenly shouted coldly, "Did I allow you to leave?" Yang Xingtian's body trembled as he cupped his fists at Dong Xianjun. "May I know what other orders do you have?" Dong Xianjun asked Yang Xingtian. After learning of Yang Xingtian's identity and witnessing his amazing strength and ability, many geniuses were extremely shocked. The dozen or so cultivators who had entered the well of divine blood returned. The blood-colored space in the deepest part of the well of divine blood had collapsed, and a spatial crack where the well of divine blood was located was slowly healing. Naturally, they found nothing when they went down. What did you find in the well of divine blood? Dong Xianzheng asked Yang Shengtian. He had just performed a soul-searching on the 3 ancient blue city cultivators, so he naturally knew that Yang Shengtian had entered the well of divine blood before. Yang Shengtian said in a trembling voice, "I did go in, but the space inside had collapsed, so I had to return." Dong Xianzheng wanted to continue asking, but Dong Xianjun suddenly waved his hand to stop him. He said to Yang Shengtian, "Although you are the disciple of the ancient Blue City Lord, you have now lost your power. Moreover, the ancient Blue City is now surrounded by danger. Why don't you stay by my side?" Dong Xianjun wanted to recruit Yang Shengtian. The other geniuses were surprised, but on second thought, they could not help but admire Dong Xianjun. Some of the powerful disciples of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion were cultivating their own forces, and Dong Xianjun was no exception. Yang Shengtian had previously displayed extraordinary strength, as well as Gui, Gay, Stone Essence, and the sky-piercing Blood King Vine. If they could recruit him, he would definitely be a great help. Inside Yang Shengtian Dao Palace, Su Fong sneered, "Dong Xianjun still hasn't changed. He wants to recruit every genius he sees as his subordinate, as if all the peerless geniuses of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain have to treat him as their master. It looks like the lesson I taught him last time wasn't deep enough." Then, Su Fong sent a message to Yang Shengtian with his soul, "Ignore them, and don't be humble in front of them. You are my Su Fong slave. What right do these geniuses have to be arrogant in front of you?" Yang Shengtian was shocked. The sense of inferiority he felt when facing Dongxuan's geniuses instantly vanished. "I, Yang Shengtian, don't want to be anyone's subordinate. I'm sorry." Yang Shengtian rejected flatly. His tone was no longer as respectful and humble as before. Dong Xianjun smiled faintly, but a cold glint flashed in his deep eyes. The setback he had never experienced in his life in the Valley of Blood had shrouded Dong Xianjun's heart in viciousness, making him even more narrow-minded and ruthless. What was Yang Shengtian in his eyes? He had taken the initiative to recruit him, but he had been rejected in front of so many Dongxian geniuses. The suppressed viciousness and resentment in Dong Xianjun's heart began to rise. Farewell. Yang Shengtian had never felt so happy before. He cupped his fists at the geniuses and was about to leave. Dong Xianzheng suddenly shouted, "Hold on." QL11 Yang Shengtian said, "Does this lord have anything else to say?" Dong Xianzheng looked down at Yang Shengtian with disdain and said domineeringly, "You are the disciple of Ancient Blue City's lord, and Ancient Blue City has colluded with the Boundless Great Sun sect and the other tribes. You are also their henchman. Furthermore, you possess such evil creatures as Shui Gui and the sky-piercing Bloodvine. I can't help but suspect your true identity and your purpose in coming to the well of divine blood." The gazes of the other geniuses towards Yang Shengtian turned hostile. Some of the smarter ones knew that Yang Shengtian had rejected Dong Xianjun, and Dong Xianzheng wanted to avenge him. He was just finding a dignified reason. Gu Qianqi frowned, but did not say anything. "What do you want?" Yang Shengtian looked at Dong Xianzheng, feeling a little guilty. Dong Xianzheng raised his eyebrows coldly. "Very simple. Just like how we dealt with the Boundless Great Sun sect and Ancient Blue City cultivators, I will search your soul. The matter will be clear as day." "You want to search my soul?" Yang Shengtian's eyes burned with rage, but his heart was subconsciously filled with fear. Su Fong spoke in Yang Shengtian's palace. "With this lord here, what are you afraid of?" Only then did Yang Shengtian pull himself together. He raised his head to look at Dong Xianzheng and said mockingly, "Are the geniuses of the Eastern Profound Pavilion so tyrannical and cruel? Just because you have some suspicions, you would casually perform soul-searching on someone?" Dong Xianzheng was speechless. Dong Xianjun said in a deep voice, "Since it involves a foreign race and threatens us humans, we naturally have to use extreme measures. That's right. Dong Xianzheng sneered domineeringly and took a step forward. His divine aura and will crushed towards Yang Xingtian. Although I, Yang Xingtian, am inferior to you in status, I will not allow you to step on my head. Yang Xingtian shouted angrily and flashed towards Dong Xianzheng. With a wave of his arms, a majestic force of gravity exploded, forming a gravitational field. It turned out that Su Fong had activated the stone essence's ability, releasing a shocking power through Yang Xingtian's body. Then, Yang Xingtian grabbed a cloud of black blood poison, which rolled out like a tide. Together with the gravitational field released by the stone essence, it formed a poisonous space. In the stone essence's gravitational field, Dong Xianzheng's divine aura shattered. Even his will and Tao heart were affected and distorted by the gravity, making it difficult for him to gather his thoughts. The stone essence's earth elemental divine aura could not threaten Dong Xianzheng at first. After all, he was a genius carefully nurtured by Dongxian Pavilion. His abilities in Xianbao were extraordinary. However, the combination of Gui's poison and the gravitational field created a huge problem for Dong Xianzheng. Sizzle. The blood poison constantly corroded Dong Xianzheng's defense. Once the defense was broken and his body was stained with the blood poison, it would be quite troublesome. Dong Xianzheng was shocked and furious. With a flip of his right palm, a Xian Bao appeared in his palm. It was a dark and gloomy alms bowl that seemed as if it was formed from a part of the universe. Blue and lustrous profound lights coiled around it, while extremely cold and gloomy gales whistled without end. The Cleansing Ocean Mystic Bowl. The Cleansing Ocean Mystic Bowl was a Xian Bao refined from the water elemental essence of a part of the universe. It was equivalent to Dong Xianzheng's natal Xian Bao, and its power could continuously increase with Dong Xianzheng's improvement. Whoosh! A blue water column shot up into the sky from the alms bowl, and a vast ocean surged out. Under the impact of the majestic water elemental energy, the blood poison released by Gui was diluted and swallowed, and the gravitational field was also broken. An ant dares to defy this reputed one's will? You're courting death. Dong Xianzheng shouted domineeringly. Yang Shengtian sneered. You want to search my soul, yet you want me to listen to you obediently and be at your mercy. Once I resist, it's defying your will, and I must die. I've finally experienced the tyranny of the Eastern Profound Pavilion's geniuses. Dong Xianzheng flew into a rage out of humiliation and was about to continue using the Cleansing Ocean Mystic Bowl to suppress Su Fong. Inside Yang Shengtian's palace, Su Fong's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Since Dong Xianzheng was so overbearing, he could only suppress him ruthlessly. Suddenly, Gu Tianqi suddenly spoke. Young Master Dong Xianzheng, can you give this reputed one face and stop? Su Fong did not expect Gu Tianqi to stop him. In the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, especially in the circle of Dongxian geniuses, there were very few who did not respect Gu Tianqi. Besides, Dong Xianzheng had just joined the Eastern Profound Pavilion not long ago. How could he not respect Gu Tianqi? Dong Xianzheng looked at Yang Shengtian and snorted. Count yourself lucky that senior brother Gu Tianqi stepped in for you this time. Otherwise, you'd be in trouble. Chapter 2785. Gu Tianqi looked at Yang Xingtian and nodded. We disciples from Dongshuan's various forces have come to ancient Blue City to investigate the collusion between the Endless Sun sect and ancient Blue City with the other races. Consider it as training. Your strength is extraordinary. Why don't you join us and investigate the truth together? At the same time, we can interact. What do you think? Gu Tianqi's words surprised the other geniuses. These geniuses were the top geniuses of the entire Eastern Xian divine domain. Their identity, talent, and strength were extraordinary. Why would they care about ordinary people? Even getting close to them and talking to them was a great opportunity. Gu Tianqi actually asked Yang Xingtian, a disciple of ancient Blue City, to join them. It was evident how much he valued him. Yang Xingtian was stunned, then overjoyed, but he did not know how to answer. Su Fong was also surprised, then shook his head with a smile. Even Gu Qianqi doesn't care about the invasion of the other races, treating it as training. Even the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine had appeared. It was obvious that the matter of the other races was no small matter. These geniuses actually treated the invasion of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain as a relaxing training exercise. It would be strange if they did not suffer a great loss. He immediately sent a thought to Yang Shengtian. Ignore them. Yang Shengtian said, "This one appreciates this lord's kindness, but this one has a friend trapped in ancient Blue City. Moreover, this one's relatives are all in ancient Blue City. If something big really happens, this one cannot stay out of it. I need to hurry to ancient Blue City as soon as possible." It was not that Su Fong had not thought of mixing in with these geniuses and waiting for an opportunity to suppress Dong Xinzheng. However, these geniuses were not simple, especially Gu Tianqi. Su Fong could not help but be wary of him. Until now, the seal of the great art of breaking had not been completely removed. How could he not be wary? If he was not careful, Yang Shengtian would be exposed. At that time, whether it was Ling Xingqin, Dong Xinjun, Dong Xinzheng, or even Gu Tianqi, they would not let Su Fong go. It would be difficult to escape. The matter of capturing Dong Xinzheng was not urgent. There would be opportunities in the future. Let's settle the matter of ancient Blue City first. Gu Tianqi revealed a disappointed look and said, "Since you insist, I won't force you anymore." Yang Shengtian bade farewell to Gu Tianqi and flew towards ancient Blue City. Looking at Yang Shengtian's back, Gu Tianqi's brows furrowed, his eyes were filled with doubt. Gu Tianqi felt a sense of déjà vu from Yang Shengtian. It was because of this feeling that he had extended an invitation to Yang Shengtian, but who knew that he would be rejected by Yang Shengtian. Dong Xinjun looked in the direction of Yang Shengtian's departure with a cold glint in his eyes. Yang Shengtian sped all the way across the plains. After a month of ancient Blue City, could see Blue City, Blue City. Was it Fong? Su Fong ordered Yang Shengtian to stop, then found a mountain range and opened up a cave in a cliff. Using a formation as cover, he entered the cave. Su Fong extracted a few drops of blood from the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and gave it to Yang Shengtian to recover the life force that was devoured in the well of divine blood. The life force in the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine seed had a reverse effect on a cultivator's life force. As long as it was controlled properly, it could help a cultivator recover their physical body and life force. These few drops of blood were enough for Yang Shengtian to quickly recover to his peak state. "Thank you, Master." Yang Shengtian kowtowed to Su Fong. Although his fate was controlled by Su Fong, he still had his own consciousness and emotions. He was grateful that Su Fong treated him like this. Su Fong said, "You don't have to thank this lord. I, Su Fong, have always been clear about gratitude and grudges. You are now my slave and have worked hard for me. Naturally, I will not let you suffer. Recover your physical body first. When this lord completely breaks through the shackles in the future, I will reward you with the reincarnation life and death fruit to help you rebuild your Tao heart." "Thank you, Master. Master's kindness to me is as heavy as a mountain, as if I was reborn." Yang Shengtian kowtowed loudly. QL11, however, he did not realize that his broken Tao heart was personally caused by Su Fong. Su Fong used the time formation and let Yang Shengtian recover in the formation. He began to study the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. Inside his physical body, the blood strands transformed from the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine seed merged with his flesh and meridians. They even seeped into his bones, causing his life force to become 10 times greater than before. After a long time, Su Fong suddenly raised his right hand. Blood strands gushed out from his palm. His entire right palm suddenly turned into a blood vine. Even his right arm had blood strands condensing into a blood vine pattern. With a thought, with a whoosh, the blood vine snaked out from his palm and circled around like a python. I can cultivate the heaven-piercing Blood King vine like how I cultivated the dragon's subduing true body and the Black Lotus true body. However, the growth of the heaven-piercing Blood King vine does not require wood elemental essence, but life, as long as I continue to devour life force. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine seed will be completely born and eventually become a top life form like the main body. When the heaven-piercing Blood King vine matures, it will be the same as having a new Dharma body. It will become another powerful trump card of mine. Obtaining such a powerful ability that was even comparable to the fortune of the luck spider was considered unique in the human race of the Jiuquan God realm. Su Fang's heart was brimming with great joy. I wonder what the situation inside ancient Blue City is like. Putting away the heaven-piercing Blood King vine, Su Fang began a plan to enter ancient Blue City. At this moment, Shi Xiandaozu's voice suddenly came from inside his body. Su Fang, you don't have to go at all. The ones who died in ancient Blue City are just some mortals. That Gao Tianlei is just a casual acquaintance of yours. As for that Sky Lord Pan Song, colluding with the other races is tantamount to seeking his own death. Even if you don't care about him, he won't be able to escape death. Why do you have to take the risk to go to ancient Blue City now? Su Fang was silent for a moment. Then, his gaze passed through the barrier outside the cave and landed on the ant-like mortals on the ground. He slowly said, "It's because of those mortals, and also because of myself." Shi Xiandaozu was stunned. "For those mortals? What do you mean?" "Those mortals are insignificant and weak. In the eyes of the cultivators of the Jiuquan God realm, they are ants. The life forms of the low-level universe are also ants. They are lowly and insignificant. Their deaths are not worth regretting. Actually, what's the difference between me and them? I started from a mortal in the low-level universe and surpassed them step by step to reach my current height. If I would be like the other cultivators and see these mortals as ants, then I would be forgetting my roots. Countless mortals are facing life and death danger. If I don't stand up, who will stand up to save them? If I ignore them, my Tao heart will become unstable. It might even leave behind a heart demon that will shackle my cultivation. By standing up for these mortals, I am actually also standing up for myself. After coming to the Eastern profound God realm for so many years, I have seen many things and understood many things. Cultivation is not only about cultivating the truth of the great Tao, it is also about cultivating the truth of one's heart. Cultivators cannot scheme for long. Power and status are the shackles of cultivation. They are selfish, and it is difficult for them to have the vast sea and the sky. As a cultivator, we should grasp the present and seize every moment. With a courageous heart, we should not be afraid of difficulties and obstacles. We should follow our hearts and live our true selves. We should live to our heart's content, Su Fang said slowly. His eyes were filled with determination and certainty. Shi Xiandaozu said in a low voice, "According to my calculations, the foreign races are plotting something big in ancient Blue City. Although your strength is not ordinary, fighting against the powerful foreign races is like hitting a rock with an egg. So be it, so what?" Su Fang smiled brightly. A domineering aura of facing millions and millions of people, as well as a lofty feeling, arose spontaneously. "Good." Shi Xiandaozu gave a long laugh. Then, the laughter gradually disappeared from Su Fang's mind. After staying in the cave for 10 years, Su Fang spent 100 years in the time formation. During this time, Su Fang also tried to break through the shackles of the great taboo-breaking art. The great taboo-breaking art was torn apart by the heaven-piercing Blood King, Vine's mother body, but its power was still there. Su Fang urged the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, and at the same time, used the heavenly derivation mystery solution to continuously penetrate the great taboo-breaking art. Under the continuous penetration of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, the stubborn and powerful shackles of the great taboo-breaking art actually showed signs of loosening. However, to completely destroy it, it was not something that could be done in a short 100 years. There were no other good solutions. He could only use the blood threads of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to continuously penetrate and wear down the power of the great taboo-breaking art. Sooner or later, it would be completely eradicated. He could not delay any longer. Therefore, Su Fong hid inside the Yangsheng Heavenly Tao Palace and headed straight for ancient Blue City. Using Yang Shengtian's eyes, Su Fong saw that in a radius of several thousand li outside ancient Blue City, there were countless mortal tribes that came from ancient Blue City's sphere of influence. Su Fong also noticed that on the vast expanse of land outside ancient Blue City, the temporary camps that the mortal tribes of various sizes lived in, although there were as many as the hairs on a cow, they were not disorderly and disorderly. Instead, they were arranged in a bizarre pattern. Yang Shengtian, fly into the air and take a look. Su Fong saw some clues. With a thought, he made Yang Shengtian quickly ascend into the air. Soon, Yang Shengtian rose to a height of 10,000 zhang in the air. Su Fong had a panoramic view of ancient Blue City and its surroundings. Formation. Su Fong was shocked. It turned out that those camps, with ancient Blue City as the center, formed a huge and incomparably vast formation. Not only was the formation vast, it was also incomparably mysterious. With Su Fong's current formation level, he could only see a little bit of it. Heavenly Sovereign Pansong is planning to use ancient Blue City as the center to create a large formation to devour the lives of many mortals to replenish his life and change his fate. Chapter 2786. Life-Devouring Array? Something doesn't seem right. Xixian Daozu suddenly spoke from the depths of Su Fong's body. Master, this array is the array used by the Sky Venerables to mend life and change fate? It seems to be the life-devouring array that has long been extinct in the Jiushuan God domain, but it seems somewhat specious. Strange. Even Master can't tell. Su Fong felt incredulous. In his mind, Xixian Daozu was an omnipotent supreme existence. There was nothing he didn't know. The Tao of arrays is vast and endless. Master is not an array master. So what if I don't recognize this array? The one who has the most profound understanding of the Tao of arrays is that old monster from Beixian. Even he doesn't dare to say that he has truly understood the true essence of the Tao of arrays and mastered all arrays. Su Fong smiled embarrassedly. Xixian Daozu warned, Pan Song, this junior, seems to have gone completely crazy in order to survive. He actually created such an evil array to mend his life and change his fate, and even implicated the foreign races. You must be careful in ancient Blue City. Don't try to be brave. If you really can't handle it, just speak up and Master will help you resolve it. Thank you, Master. After getting Xixian Daozu's promise to help, Su Fong's heart immediately calmed down. However, unless it was a matter of life and death, he would not let Xixian Daozu help. There were still 2 chances left. Of course, he had to use them sparingly. Moreover, if he let Xixian Daozu help him when he encountered danger, he would lose points in Xixian Daozu's heart. Su Fong was not a fool. He was born in a low-level universe. In the Jiushuan God domain, he finally had such a big backer. How could he not hold on tight? Yang Shengtian, let's go. Su Fong transmitted his primordial spirit to Yang Shengtian. Whoosh, dozens of thoughts suddenly flashed out from the void, releasing an astonishing will and divine aura that shackled Yang Shengtian. Who are you? How dare you spy on ancient Blue City? The figure of an old man condensed from the vast divine might, his cold eyes looking at Yang Shengtian. Yang Shengtian felt as if his soul was about to collapse. He replied in a trembling voice, I am Yang Shengtian, the direct disciple of the City Lord. The City Lord's personal disciple? Wait a moment. The old man's shadow communicated with the others using his divine sense. Then, his sharp gaze swept over Yang Shengtian. Yang Shengtian felt as if he had been seen through from the inside out. He was so scared that his entire body shivered. He was afraid that the old man would discover Su Fong in the Tao Palace. Su Fong was prepared for this. He used the life-shrinking technique to conceal his aura. Although the elder was extraordinary and his strength surpassed that of a Tao Lord, it was difficult for him to see through him. Who knew the old man's phantom suddenly erupted with divine might and shackled Yang Shengtian. Yang Shengtian turned pale with fright. I am indeed the disciple of the city lord. Why are you shackling me? The old man snorted. You are indeed the city lord's personal disciple, Yang Shengtian. However, you went to the well of divine blood when you were patrolling the vast plains tribe, and then there was no news of you. It just so happened that something happened to the well of divine blood. None of the people sent by the city lord's mansion survived. The city lord's mansion had already ordered to capture you. I didn't expect you to dare to come back. Then, a divine might wrapped around Yang Shengtian and disappeared into the sky, passing through the barrier outside ancient Blue City. Yang Shengtian was extremely anxious. He secretly transmitted his thoughts to Su Fong. Master, what should we do? Su Fong said, don't panic. Let's wait and see. Two cultivators from ancient Blue City flew over and brought the shackled Yang Shengtian to a heavily guarded palace in the depths of the city. They passed through layers of formations and entered the depths of the palace. Then they shackled him in a formation cage. Su Fong did not expect that as soon as he arrived at ancient Blue City, he would become a prisoner without any progress. Master, what should we do? Let me think about it. Su Fong pondered for a while. From the Pansong universe until now, what kind of storms and waves had he not experienced? Soon, Su Fong had a solution. Then, he gave Yang Shengtian instructions. Yang Shengtian shouted loudly, Men, I have something to say. After shouting for half an hour, no one paid attention to him. Yang Shengtian said again, I know about the well of divine blood. I want to tell the city lord personally. Why aren't you coming? As soon as his voice fell, a thought passed through the formation and turned into a dignified middle-aged man. This middle-aged man was a cultivator from ancient Blue City. Yang Shengtian naturally recognized him. The middle-aged man said majestically, Tell me everything you know. Yang Shengtian rolled out a xianguang from his body. Within it was a supreme-grade, profound sword. It was the xianguang that he obtained from the storage ring of the Tao Lord from the Great Sun Limitless sect. The middle-aged man snorted. Yang Shengtian, what do you want to do? Yang Shengtian smiled and said fawningly, This is a token of my respect to you, sir. Please accept it. The middle-aged man snorted. You want to bribe me with the xianguang so that I can let you go? Even if I want to let you go, I don't have the authority to do so. Yang Shengtian said, I don't mean anything else. I just want to ask you to send a message to senior brother Yang Dingtian. Tell him that I have a treasure that he has been dreaming of. Please come to see me. Because of the importance of this matter, it's best for him to come in person. Please, when it's done, I'm willing to offer you another supreme-grade xianguang. I'm only responsible for delivering the message for you. As for whether young master Yang Dingtian will see you, I can't guarantee. The middle-aged man wrapped the supreme-grade flying sword and disappeared in the formation. One day later, a young man stepped out of the formation and looked down at Yang Shengtian. He said coldly, Yang Dingtian, you want to see me? Yang Shengtian transmitted the voice of primordial spirit. Yes. When I was patrolling the vast plain, I got a supreme-grade spiritual object by accident. It's called the Reincarnation Life Extermination Fruit. Reincarnation Life Extermination Fruit? Yang Dingtian raised his eyebrows. Then he remembered what the Reincarnation Life Extermination Fruit was. Yang Dingtian's eyes shone with terrifying light. You mean the supreme-grade spiritual object that can refine and reshape the Taoist heart? Yes. Take it out now. Senior brother, please block the formation so that it won't be seen by others. You used to be a good-for-nothing. I didn't expect you to be so cautious now. Yang Dingtian laughed and released a thought. It turned into a bounded domain and covered the two of them. The bounded domain was not powerful. Its only function was to block the power of perception. As long as the power of perception touched the bounded domain, it would be detected by Yang Dingtian immediately. Senior brother, this is the Reincarnation Life Extermination Fruit. Yang Shengtian grabbed a xianguang and turned it into a picture scroll. Yang Dingtian fixed his eyes on it. At this moment, a line of nothingness shot out from Yang Shengtian's head and fell into Yang Dingtian's body. The life-pulling karma line. It turned out that Su Fong used the life-shortening skill to plant the life-pulling karma line in Yang Dingtian's fate. Yang Dingtian felt something was wrong. He looked at Yang Shengtian and shouted angrily, "Yang Shengtian, what have you done to me?" Buzz, buzz. At this time, Su Fong activated the life-leading karma line, and it trembled. Yang Dingtian's fate of nothingness was instantly controlled, like a puppet being controlled by an invisible thread. Su Fong transmitted his mind to Yang Dingtian. "Yang Dingtian, you have to answer my question in full detail." His voice was like the voice of heaven in Yang Dingtian's mind. "Yes, I will tell you everything I know," Yang Dingtian answered without hesitation. He had no will to reject or resist. After a series of questions, Su Fong furrowed his brows. Yang Dingtian's status in ancient Blue City was much higher than Yang Shengtian's, so he knew much more than Yang Shengtian. He learned from Yang Dingtian that Gao Tianlei was shackled in the prison of the city lord's mansion by the city lord. Even Yang Dingtian could not get close to the prison. Not only Gao Tianlei, there were also many cultivators from the ancient Blue City. Moreover, they were all true experts. It was unknown where they were captured from, and it was unknown who took action. At this moment, they were all imprisoned in the city lord's mansion's prison. In ancient Blue City, the real master was not the city lord, but the mysterious old city lord, who was the heavenly master Pan Song. In addition, there were a large number of experts from the Great Sun Limitless sect, including many peerless experts who had surpassed the Taoist master. It turned out that the mysterious world where the Great Sun Limitless sect was located had been destroyed by the Heaven Pavilion and other forces. The experts in the sect were either suppressed or sent to ancient Blue City. At this time, ancient Blue City was full of experts. However, Yang Dingtian did not know the detailed plan of the Heavenly Master Pan Song and the Great Sun Limitless sect. He only knew that the Heavenly Master Pan Song was going to devour many mortals and those captured practitioners and exchange their lives for the luck of the Heavenly Master Pan Song. Of course, the ancient Blue City claimed that it was going to help those mortals purify their marrow, change their physique, and obtain the talent for cultivation. The ancient Blue City called this event the Grand Ceremony of Taming Heaven. There were less than 10 years left before the Grand Ceremony of Taming Heaven. Su Fong thought for a long time and finally made a decision. "Take me out of here first. Yang Shengtian, you stay here for a while. I will try to save you later." Then Su Fong entered the heavenly Tao Palace of Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian withdrew his thoughts, and the bounded domain disappeared. Then he activated a token to get out of the tactical formation. The middle-aged practitioner who guarded the prison came to greet him. Yang Dingtian said majestically, "Yang Shengtian is my junior fellow apprentice and also the pro-disciple of the city master. I will ask the city master to let him out. You have to serve him well here. If he is wronged, I will not spare you." "Yes." The middle-aged practitioner trembled and agreed. Yang Dingtian went back to the palace where he lived and released Su Fong from the heavenly Tao Palace. Su Fong asked Yang Dingtian to try to save Yang Shengtian and at the same time find out more information. He stayed in the depths of the palace and used the tactical formation to hide himself in the palace. Yang Dingtian came forward and rescued Yang Shengtian. It didn't take him much effort. After all, Yang Shengtian was just a trash with a broken Taoist heart, an insignificant nobody. However, Yang Dingtian did not find out much useful information. Take me to the ancient Blue City. Chapter 2787. Su Fong controlled Yang Dingtian secretly. It seemed that Yang Dingtian was wandering around in the ancient Blue City, but he was actually trying to figure out the formation. However, the life-devouring grand formation was truly too vast and complicated, and it was utterly impossible for Su Fong to discern any clues with his current attainments and formations. Su Fong planned to use the identity of Yang Dingtian to do something to the formation in advance. As long as the formation was destroyed, the plan of Pan Song, the celestial master, would fail. But he didn't know Some of the key areas of the formation were guarded by experts from the Great Sun Limitless sect. In the most critical areas of the formation, there were even some peerless experts who were stronger than the Taoist master. It was difficult for Yang Dingtian to get close to those areas, let alone to do anything to the formation. The Endless Sun sect is so heavily guarded. It shows that they attach great importance to the formation. Obviously, the formation of life-devouring sky is not as simple as changing the fate of Pan Tsong, the celestial master. Su Fong didn't get nothing. At least he figured out the horror of the formation and the importance of the Endless Sun sect. There was no other way. Su Fong had no other way. He could only take one step at a time. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, the majestic voice of the city master of ancient Blue City suddenly sounded and spread all over the city. The grand ceremony of ancient Blue City begins. All the cultivators above the Taoist Lord level should gather in the grand hall of ancient Blue City. It's finally going to start. Su Fong, who was sitting in the depths of Yang Dingtian's palace, suddenly opened his eyes and looked very determined. First, he moved Yang Shengtian into the deep space of his body. Su Fong didn't have the habit of abandoning his subordinates. Although Yang Shengtian was a puppet controlled by him, he was a subordinate with consciousness. Su Fong wouldn't leave him in the palace to die. Yang Dingtian, let's go. Yang Dingtian took Su Fong into the Taoist palace and flew out of the palace to the depths of the ancient Blue City. He came to the palaces where the power of the ancient Blue City was concentrated and finally stepped into a palace. The formation of space inside the palace had been activated. The seemingly small palace could accommodate tens of thousands of people. By now, the palace was filled with cultivators. All of them were native cultivators of ancient Azure City, and all of them were at least Tao Lords. All of the higher-ups of ancient Azure City had appeared as well. Through Yang Dingtian's eyes, Su Fong saw the city master of Gutsong and more than 30 high-level officials around him. They were all Tao Lords with extraordinary auras, and Su Fong was very familiar with their auras. They were from the origin of the Pangang universe. The city lord of Gutsong City and the higher-ups of Gutsong City are all peerless geniuses from the Pansong universe. They entered the exalted celestial mountain and thought that they would obtain supreme fortune. In the end, they were used as test subjects by the exalted celestial Pansong. They cultivated the 9 suns, 9 transformations, and ended up wandering in the heaven-abandoned desolate region. Until now, their fates are still controlled by the exalted celestial Pansong. Su Fong sighed inwardly. In truth, he could also be considered a test subject of the Empyrean, but he had relied on his own efforts to change his own destiny, firmly grasping his own destiny and future in his own hands. After waiting for an hour, City Master Gutsong waved his hand majestically. Sky's sovereign has arrived. All of you kneel down and pay your respects. Whoosh, a stream of divine power suddenly descended, forcing the cultivators inside the palace to kneel down. They couldn't help but feel awe in their hearts. More than a dozen figures stepped out from the void. The leader was covered with a mysterious aura, which made him look ethereal. If he didn't deliberately reveal his aura, it would be difficult to discover his existence. That was because he existed in the unseen destiny. Sky Sovereign Pansong. Sky Sovereign Pansong, we finally meet again. This time, I will not only prevent your plot from succeeding, but also try to seize your destiny Dharma body. Inside Yang Dingtian's Taoist palace, Su Fong's heart was surging with a fierce aura. Behind Sky Sovereign Pansong, there were more than a dozen cultivators who all wore very simple robes, looking like a group of mortals. However, these people's auras were more powerful. Among them, there were as many as 7 peerless experts who had surpassed Tao Lords. Needless to say, these cultivators were from the Great Sun Limitless sect. One of the cultivators was also an acquaintance of Su Fong, the adoptive father of Goddess Luo, Ancestor Luo. Ancestor Luo disappeared in the Blood Valley last time. Su Fong didn't expect to meet him again here. Is Goddess Luo's adoptive father a cultivator under Sky, Sovereign Pansong, or from the Great Sun Limitless sect? Su Fong was confused. However, he didn't take this person seriously. With his current strength, he didn't take a cultivator like Ancestor Luo seriously. Get up. The sky's sovereign waved his hand and said to the cultivators who were kneeling down below, "This supreme sky ceremony is of great importance. I have to gather all of you and give you a detailed explanation." Sky Sovereign Pan Song said slowly, "I spent a lot of energy and painstaking effort to create the supreme sky formation. I think most of you know the purpose. That is to use the lives of those mortals as small as ants to mend my life and change my fate." Sky Sovereign Pan Song said bluntly, which shocked the cultivators in the palace. However, they didn't dare to say anything, but secretly communicated with each other with their divine thoughts. In the eyes of cultivators, mortals were as small as ants, and their lives were worthless. However, using mortals' lives to mend a cultivator's fate and change their fate was an evil method that even evil cultivators despised. Moreover, most of the cultivators in the palace were mortals from ancient Blue City and the Vast Plains tribe. Although the mortals who were being used as material for the formation and were about to be devoured didn't have much blood relations with them, they were still inextricably linked to them. Many people had heard of using so many mortals' lives to mend a sky sovereign's life and change his fate, but they never dared to believe it. Now that Sky Sovereign Pansong said it himself, how could these cultivators not be shocked? If not for Sky Sovereign Pansong's unfathomable strength and the presence of so many peerless Great Sun Limitless Sect experts, the palace would have fallen into chaos. The Sky Sovereign snorted coldly. Humph. Cultivators should cut off their emotions and desires when they cultivate. To think that your Tao hearts would be shaken for a bunch of ant-like mortals. How disappointing. Lord Sky Sovereign, your actions will definitely make ancient Blue City the public enemy of all cultivators in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. When the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion decides to punish you, no one will be able to escape death. A cultivator with a rather upright nature shouted loudly from the crowd. The Sky Sovereign sneered. The cultivators of the Eastern Profound Divine Realm call us cultivators from low-level universes a race of slaves abandoned by the heavens. They don't even care about our lives, so why would they care about those ant-like mortals? The palace fell into silence. Then he said naively, "I'm doing this to sacrifice mortals to nurture the elites of ancient Blue City, so that ancient Blue City can rise in defiance of the heavens." Nurture us? Many cultivators were puzzled. I've created the grand, withering heaven formation not only to mend my fate and change my fortune, but I'll also need all of you to work together to activate it. Once the formation is activated, you'll also be able to obtain supreme fortune and change your fate. With supreme fortune, your future accomplishments will be limitless. The Sky Sovereign's words caused another uproar in the palace. When it quieted down, the anger and dissatisfaction in their eyes were gone. Instead, they were full of expectation. Many people's eyes were shining with excitement. Only less than 1/10 of the cultivators were hesitating. Some were still dissatisfied, but no one said anything. These are the cultivators of ancient Blue City. They're all selfish. Once they get benefits, why would they care about others' lives? QL 11,000 of cultivators were sitting in the formation on the open area. All of them had their Taoist palaces and bodies shackled and couldn't move. These cultivators were all captured by the Great Sun Limitless Sect from other mysterious worlds and the heaven-forsaken wilderness. Just like the mortals outside the city, they were all going to become the nutrients of the Sky Sovereign. Gao Tianlei must be like these cultivators. Once the formation was activated, all of them would be sucked dry and turned into the fate of the Sky Sovereign Pansong. The Sky Sovereign Pansong is so crazy. In order to restore his fate and save his life, he sacrificed so many mortals and cultivators. Su Fong saw everything clearly with the help of Yang Dingtian's eyes. He couldn't help but gnash his teeth in anger. What? Chapter 2788. What Tiannu? The other three are the practitioners of the heaven-forsaken slave tribe who plan to help me in the second-star killer city of the Blood Valley. Unexpectedly, who would have thought that Huatianu would also be captured? And he happened to be shackled in the formation that Yang Dingtian was in charge of. On the Bloodkill platform of the second-star killer city, Huatianu deliberately let Su Fong win at the risk of being chased by Dong Xianjun and the Castellan, so that Su Fong could have a chance to rest. Later, when Su Fong was besieged by the Castellan, Huatianu and a dozen practitioners of the heaven-forsaken slave tribe stood up for him regardless of the consequences. Although they didn't have the chance to fight, Su Fong always remembered their sacrifice. Now Huatianu was shackled and was about to die. Su Fong couldn't just stand by and watch. Yang Dingtian sensed Su Fong's surprise and anger. He stopped and sent a message to Su Fong. "Master, what's the matter?" Su Fong was about to respond. A sense of nothingness passed by, and then a cold voice sounded in Yang Dingtian's ears. "Why don't you enter the spell altar and master the handprint?" It turned out that there was a strong practitioner in the sky who was monitoring every move of the practitioners of the ancient Blue City. Su Fong had to give up the idea of saving Huatianu and the other three and let Yang Dingtian enter the spell altar. The only thing he could do now was to wait for the right time to save them and destroy the plot of Pansong. But Su Fong had no confidence. Pansong's plan is obviously not as simple as it seems. Except for the overall strength of the Great Sun Limitless Way, I haven't seen any signs of the alien tribe. And now, I haven't completely broken the shackles of the Great Taboo Art, so my strength is limited. But the other side has a lot of strong practitioners. Su Fong was in a mess. Calm down. The more critical the moment is, the calmer I have to be. Su Fong forced himself to calm down. He had experienced more dangerous situations than this before, and he even had no chance of survival. But he finally resolved the crisis with his tough Taoist heart. Days passed, while Yang Dingtian was constantly meditating and practicing the hand gestures used to activate the formation. Su Fong in the Taoist palace couldn't find a good way to deal with the current situation. For cultivators, 10 years was nothing more than the blink of an eye. On this day, the grand ceremony of Tong Tian begins now. Following the ancient Blue City Master's dignified and solemn voice, the ancient Blue City's so-called Grand Ceremony of the Heavens had finally begun. Immediately after, a golden Xian Guang slowly rose from the center of ancient Blue City, quickly condensing into a several hundred-meter-tall golden pagoda. Golden light glittered, and a dignified aura enveloped the entire area. Then, a blurry golden figure appeared at the top of the tower. He radiated with supreme majesty and dominating aura, as if he was the embodiment of the heavenly Tao. It was Pan Song, the heavenly lord. The heavenly venerable Pan Song released a sacred and peaceful aura that was filled with vitality. It enveloped the ancient Blue City and the surrounding mortals. The peaceful aura penetrated into the mortals' bodies, making countless mortals feel the vitality in their bodies, as if they had endless power. Even those cultivators, after absorbing the peaceful aura, were in high spirits. Many mortals were full of awe and excitement. They couldn't help opening everything, including their souls. They knelt down on the ground and kowtowed devoutly to Pan Song. Activate the formation. The heavenly venerable Pan Song's divine thought sounded in the minds of many cultivators. Nearly all the cultivators in ancient Blue City made hand gestures to activate the formations that they controlled. While Yang Dingtian was hesitating, suddenly an amazing willpower oppressed him. Yang Dingtian, why don't you activate the formation? It was a powerhouse from the Great Sun Limitless sect, a peerless powerhouse who had surpassed the Taoist master. He was monitoring every cultivator who was in charge of the formation. Boom, boom, boom. Many small formations were activated. Xian Guang soared to the sky, releasing the amazing power of the formation. They intertwined with each other and converged into a vast formation. The light broke through the sky and shone in the chaotic void. The power of the formation shrouded the ancient Blue City and the surrounding area. Those cultivators who were shackled and countless mortals were immediately shrouded by the power of the formation. Their vital aura began to flow uncontrollably into the formation. How could this be? Isn't it going to give us good fortune, help us purify our marrow, and give us the talent for cultivation? Many mortals were shocked and stunned. They thought they could get the supreme good fortune, so they came to the ancient blue city from all over the vast plain. But they didn't know they didn't get any good fortune but their lives. How could they not panic and despair? However, they had been shackled by the power of the formation. They were like meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. The formation devoured the lives at a very slow speed. However, there were so many mortals and cultivators. Even if each of them lost a little bit of their vital aura, it would still be a vast amount. After the small array formation swallowed up the lives of mortals and cultivators, after the array formations changed and circulated, they all gathered at the great pagoda in the center of ancient Blue City. They turned into a mysterious purple aura, causing the golden pagoda to be shrouded in a layer of mysterious purple light. Heavenly Master Pan Song stood on the top of the huge tower. Streams of purple chi seeped into his body, making him look more mysterious. If you don't take action now, I'm afraid it will be too late. Su Fong was in Yang Dingtian's Taoist palace. Seeing what was happening outside, he couldn't help but feel anxious and ready to take action at any time. When the life-devouring formation was activated, more than 20 figures were standing in the air thousands of miles away from the ancient Blue City. They were looking at the ancient Blue City from afar. Led by Gu Tianqi and Dong Xianjun, they were peerless geniuses from Tiange, the three highest mysterious sects, the Luo Shao Sword sect, and other superforces. Ling Xingchen sneered and said disdainfully, "The ancient Blue City is not powerful, and Pan Song is not a real peerless master. But he has guts. He dares to use the art of replenishing life and changing fate. Such an action is like seeking death." Dong Xianzheng shook his head and said, "I've been to the universe formed by Pan Song's heavens will Dharma. This person's ability is extraordinary, and he is quite cunning. It's a pity that he was possessed by the evil god. He will die sooner or later. That's why he did such a crazy thing. However, this person can't be underestimated. We'd better be careful." Ling Xingchen snorted and said, "After all, he's a low-level existence from a low-level universe. He thinks he can do whatever he wants in the Eastern Xian divine domain by colluding with the Boundless Great Sect. If we take action, we can definitely suppress him easily. By then, we will be famous in Dongxian." Everyone looked at Gu Qianqi. These young cultivators were all peerless geniuses. No one was willing to submit to another. However, there was an exception, Gu Qianqi. Not only was Gu Qianqi the top disciple of the three highest mysterious sects, his ability was the strongest among these geniuses. He was also cunning and took care of everything. Therefore, he was regarded as the leader of these geniuses. Gu Qianqi raised his eyebrows slightly, confusion showing in his eyes. Pan Song is colluding with the Boundless Great Sect, and the Boundless Great Sect is a force that the evil god has secretly developed in Dongxian. This means that Pan Song is colluding with other races. Things aren't as simple as they seem. Why don't we wait and see?" The other geniuses did not refute Gu Qianqi, but Dong Xianjun spoke up domineeringly. "We represent Dongxian Pavilion, the three highest mysterious sects, the Luo Shao Sword sect, and the other strongest forces in Dongxian. Wouldn't it be a joke if we were to be afraid of a mere Dao Lord pinnacle cultivator?" Then, Dong Xianjun took a step forward and headed straight for the ancient Blue City. QL11, he had been severely defeated by the Su Fong in the Blood Valley, and had become extremely narrow-minded. He could not help but feel inferior when he was with Gu Qianqi. In addition, everyone treated Gu Qianqi as their leader, which had stimulated him and made him jealous of Gu Qianqi. Now that he had taken the initiative to attack, he was eager to show off and redeem his reputation that had been severely damaged by the Su Fong. Once Dong Xianjun left, Dong Xianzheng and the other disciples of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion followed him and charged towards the ancient Blue City. "Senior brother Gu Qianqi, what should we do?" Ling Xingchen looked at Gu Qianqi. looking like he could not wait to make a move. Let's go together. Remember to be careful. Things aren't that simple. Gu Qianqi thought for a moment and nodded in the end. Therefore, more than 20 peerless geniuses from various superforces of the Eastern profound divine domain charged towards the ancient blue city. Dong Xianjun took the lead, streaking across the sky like a shooting star. Since the life-siphoning formation had been activated, the barrier outside the ancient blue city had already vanished. Dong Xianjun came from above the formation and was only 1,000 feet away from the giant tower in the blink of an eye. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the heavenly sovereign Pan Song. He shouted domineeringly, "Pan Song, you colluded with the great sun limitless path and used an evil art to replenish life and change fate on mortals. As a disciple of the Heaven Pavilion and a disciple of the Daozu, how can I allow you to be so arrogant?" Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dong Xianjun's voice was still echoing when the other geniuses also came over. Dong Xianjun is here. Su Fong was stunned, then let out a sigh of relief. With these geniuses of the Eastern profound divine domain taking action, the chances of destroying the heavenly sovereign Pan Song scheme and rescuing Hua Tiannu and the rest of the mortals would be much greater. The Heaven Pavilion is here. We're finally saved. The Heaven Pavilion is mighty. The young master Dong Xianjun is mighty. The cultivators who were shackled down below were unusually excited, as if they had been waiting for their savior to come. Although the mortals didn't know the Eastern profound heavenly pavilion or Dong Xianjun's great name, they understood that their savior had come and cheered loudly. Hearing the crowd's cheers and praises, Dong Xianjun felt a long-lost feeling of elation. Ever since he was defeated by Su Fong in the Blood Valley, he hadn't felt so good in a long time. A bunch of juniors dare to be arrogant in my ancient blue city? You don't have a right. Chapter 2789. Dong Xianjun raised his eyebrows and his eyes were as cold as swords. You're just a slave from the heaven-forsaken race from a low-level universe. In your universe, you're a supreme heavenly venerate. In the Eastern Xian divine domain, you're just a nobody. Countless cultivators like you have died in my hands. How dare you be arrogant in front of me? Heavenly venerate Pan Song didn't move and sneered disdainfully. How arrogant! You were defeated by Su Fong at the blood slaughter stage in Second Killer City. Su Fong is just my successor. Even Su Fong could step on your head. You, a so-called genius with an undeserved reputation, also have delusions of killing me. Su Fong. Su Fong was the biggest nightmare in Dong Xianjun's life. Heavenly venerate Pan Song's words directly hit Dong Xianjun's sore spot. It was like sprinkling salt on a bloody scar that hadn't healed yet. Su Fong. Dong Xianjun gritted his teeth. Then his cold eyes flashed with pleasure. Su Fong was imprisoned by young master Gu Tianqi with the great forbidden art. I don't know if he's alive or not. Even if he's alive, he's like a cripple. And you, including you, everyone from the Pan Song universe will die. Su Fong. Dong Xianjun muttered to himself. He heard about Su Fong's deeds when he came to the heaven-forsaken desolate region from Heaven Pavilion. Su Fong was now famous in the heaven-forsaken desolate region. Even the number one force, the Taoist sect, was sealed by Su Fong because they offended Su Fong. In the end, they had to kill a senior member of the sect to appease Su Fong's anger. In addition, Dong Xianjun's defeat at the hands of Su Fong shocked the entire Eastern Xian Divine Domain's genius circle. It was impossible for Dong Xianjun not to know about Su Fong's reputation. Back then, he returned from the Pan Song universe. Later, in Heaven Pavilion, he stood out among the many geniuses in East Xian Heaven Pavilion with his talent and became the rising star of Heaven Pavilion. Dong Xianjun planned to return to the Pan Song universe to take revenge for being a cuckold. Who would have thought? Su Fong had actually come to the Eastern profound divine domain. Moreover, he had risen in such a heaven-defying manner that even Dong Xianjun, a rising star of the Eastern profound heaven pavilion, paled in comparison. Dong Xianjun had to admit that Su Fong was someone he had to look up to. One could imagine how he felt. At this moment, when Pan Song mentioned Su Fong, not only did it add salt to Dong Xianjun's wounds, it also made Dong Xianzheng feel as if his old wounds had been torn open. His heart twitched, and his Tao heart began to become unstable. Sooner or later, I'll make Su Fong kneel before me. Today, I'll suppress you first. Dong Xianjun activated his blood fiend avatar, and the blood armor quickly appeared on his body. In an instant, he transformed into a murderous god. The heavenly Lord Pan Tsung smiled coldly. You are not qualified to suppress me. Lords of the Great Sun Limitless Path, please make your move. Several figures walked out from the void. The ones at the very front were the 7 peerless experts from the Great Sun Endless Sect who had surpassed the Tao Lord level. There were more than 300 cultivators behind them, and all of them were Tao Lords. These Great Sun Limitless Tao cultivators were no longer dressed in plain Taoist robes like before, nor were they dressed like Great Sun Limitless Tao cultivators. Instead, they were dressed in blood-red robes with blood-red cloaks. The remaining members of the Great Sun Limitless Path have all come to the heaven-forsaken desolate region. Dong Xianjun and the other geniuses were shocked. Gu Tianqi, on the other hand, looked relaxed. Why? An enemy who didn't know the truth was the most terrifying. Gu Tianqi had been worried that the heavenly Lord Pan Tsung would have other tricks up his sleeve. Now that so many Great Sun Limitless Path cultivators had appeared, it meant that the heavenly Lord Pan Tsung had already used all his trump cards. Naturally, there was nothing to be afraid of. Although the Great Sun Limitless Path had many experts, Gu Tianqi was confident that he could stabilize the situation. The heavenly Lord Pan Tsung sneered, "There are so many experts from the Great Sun Limitless Path here, and there are even those who have surpassed the Tao Lord level. Dong Xianjun, how long can you be arrogant? Pan Tsung, don't forget that this is the heaven-forsaken desolate region. It still belongs to the Jiuquan God realm and is covered by the Jiuquan's laws. Most of the other geniuses and I are listed on the Tianxian ranking and are protected by the Jiuquan's laws. How dare the experts who have surpassed the Tao Lord level attack us? What's the use of the other Great Sun Limitless Path cultivators, no matter how many of them there are?" Dong Xianjun reacted immediately and scoffed at the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivators. QL11 Ling Xingchen and the other geniuses heaved sighs of relief as well. Being protected by the Jiuquan's laws, once the experts who had surpassed the Tao Lord level attacked the Tianxian ranking geniuses, the laws would be activated and they would be killed mercilessly. Other than Dong Xianzheng and a few others, these Dongxian geniuses were all listed on the Tianxian ranking. Being protected by the Jiuquan's laws, they were naturally unafraid of the experts who had surpassed the Tao Lord level. Just as Dong Xianjun had said, the remaining Tao Lords could not do anything to them with numbers alone. The leader of the Great Sun Limitless Path was an old man with terrifying crimson eyes. He chuckled darkly and said, "The Jiuquan's laws can't save you either." He then waved his hand. The 300 Great Sun Limitless Path cultivators behind him quickly dispersed in all directions. There were 365 Tao Lords in total, standing in different directions. It looked messy and disorderly, but in reality, it contained a strange and mysterious pattern. When Su Fong saw this scene, he faintly felt uneasy in his heart. He was a formation master, and his proficiency in formations wasn't low. Naturally, he was able to discern how shocking the formation that those Tao Lords of the boundless Great Sun Path were about to execute was. The Tao Lords sat cross-legged in the air, and a crimson light erupted almost simultaneously. Around every Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator, 9 dark red blood suns quickly condensed. 9 tombs could be vaguely seen in the crimson suns, releasing a shocking aura of death and viciousness, forming an independent universe. 365 cultivators, or 365 universes of bloody tombs, arranged themselves in the air and formed a vast formation. This formation resonated with the altars and formations on the ground. The divine power of the formations was connected to each other, forming an even more astonishing formation. The formation's power enveloped the ancient blue city and the surrounding tens of thousands of miles, changing heaven and earth and turning the universe upside down. Everyone was trapped in the formation, feeling as if they were in a tomb. The aura of death and viciousness replaced all laws, wanting to drag all life into death. Whether it was the mortals, the shackled cultivators, the cultivators of the ancient blue city, and the geniuses, everyone was terrified, feeling like the end of the world had arrived. Even celestial Lord Pansong's eyes showed surprise and confusion. Obviously, the formation created by the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivators was beyond his imagination. This is the method of the evil god's descent, and it's 100 times more shocking than the evil god that devoured the Pansong universe. Su Fong was shocked when he saw this scene in Yang Dingtian's Dao Palace. Dao Zhu of Xixian suddenly said, "The celestial chaos formation. Humph, the alien race's scheme this time is not small. Su Fong, take out the teleportation talisman I gave you, and be ready to escape at any time." "Master, you want me to escape directly?" Su Fong was shocked. It seemed that the power of this formation was far beyond his estimation. This celestial chaos formation is not to deal with the geniuses of the Eastern Xian divine realm, but to open up a profound gate from the heaven-forsaken wilderness to the depths of the chaos, allowing the alien race experts to cross the boundary and enter the heaven-forsaken wilderness directly. It seems that the alien race's purpose this time is to invade the Eastern Xian divine realm. How can the Zhoushuan's heavenly laws not sense the invasion of the alien race? As long as the Zhoushuan's heavenly laws sense it, the experts will come and stop all this from happening. Su Fong was puzzled. The Zhoushuan's heavenly laws could protect the geniuses, and naturally, they could sense the invasion of the alien race experts into the Zhoushuan divine realm. In order to enter the Zhoushuan divine realm, the heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan had to plant its seed in the mysterious world to absorb the aura of the world and avoid the detection of the heavenly laws. Why do you think the Great Sun Limitless Path prepared so many mortals? It's to use the aura of the human race to deceive the detection of the Zhoushuan's heavenly laws through the formation. I see. The Heavenly Master created this life-devouring and luck-sucking formation to improve his life and luck. Isn't his plan ruined? Of course. Pansong was tricked by the Great Sun Limitless Path as well. It's not some life-devouring and luck-sucking formation, but a part of the celestial chaos formation. No wonder I felt something was amiss earlier. The Heavenly Master Pansong is cunning. I didn't expect him to be tricked, but he only has himself to blame. You'd better think of a way to escape. Once the celestial chaos grand formation is fully activated, you and all other living beings will be completely devoured by the formation before those foreign race experts can cross over. Master, since the alien race is invading, why aren't you stopping it? I'm Xixian's heavenly master. How can I interfere in Dongshuan's affairs? Besides, I'm only a thought residing in your body now. If the alien race really invades Dongxian, there must be a pinnacle existence among them that even I have to be wary of. Even if I want to stop it, I'm powerless. Xixian's Daozu's words made Su Fong's heart sink into an icy abyss. Su Fong looked at the sky with the help of Yang Dingtian's eyes. I hope Gu Qianxi and the rest can stop the Great Sun Limitless Paths experts before the formation is fully activated and the Gate of Mystery is opened. Hope was beautiful, but it was hard to realize. Boom, boom. The celestial chaos formation was activated. Not only the cultivators and mortals who were shackled were losing their aura of life faster, but also the altars on the ground were shrouded in a terrifying aura from the formation. The cultivators of ancient Blue City were shackled on the altars, unable to move. They couldn't even gather their thoughts. Then, like the other cultivators and mortals, their aura of life was draining rapidly, absorbed by the altars under them, and gathered towards the giant tower. Chapter 2790. Not only were the mortals and captured cultivators affected, even the ancient Blue City cultivators who presided over the formation and Lord Pansong at the top of the Crimson Tower were also shackled by the formation's power. The Heavenly Lord Pansong's heavenly mandate celestial body was a supreme celestial body that was cultivated using the life-shrinking technique and the sky-spill mysterious world as the foundation. It existed in the ethereal fate of the heavenly mandate celestial body. Originally, there were almost no restrictions or spells that could shackle it. However, he was currently using the destiny-devouring formation to devour the lives of many cultivators and mortals, converting them into his own fortune. His avatar had become one with the Crimson Tower and the formation beneath him. It was as if he was connected to the Crimson Tower by fate and could not break free from it. It was obvious that the Boundless Sun Sect's experts had included him in their calculations from the very beginning. Boundless vitality flowed through the Crimson Tower endlessly into Lord Pan Song's destiny avatar. It was then sent to the horizon by the formation's power. The crimson light soared into the sky, blotting out the sun. Not only did it seep into the origin of the mystical world, it also seeped into the ethereal laws of Jiuquan, obscuring the omnipresent laws of Jiuquan as well. Let's see if the laws of Jiuquan can still protect all of you. The crimson-eyed elder of the Boundless Sun Sect sneered at Dong Xianjun and the other geniuses. Then he spoke to the 6 Boundless Sun experts beside him in a cold voice filled with murderous intent. Suppress these Dongxian geniuses, but don't kill them for now. Keep them for the master to enjoy when he arrives. Yes, the 6 experts were all peerless experts who had surpassed the Tao Lord level, comparable to the master of a mystical world. They responded in unison to the crimson-eyed elder before charging towards the geniuses of East Profound Pavilion. These geniuses were indeed geniuses who had been meticulously nurtured by Dongshuan's major forces. Each of them unleashed their powerful abilities and clashed with the 6 experts who had surpassed the Tao Lord level. An earth-shattering battle erupted within the Grand Formation. Boom! A black tombstone formed from a strand of thought condensed above Dong Xianjun's head in a flash, and then came crashing down. On the tombstone, the words Dong Xianjun's tomb turned from blurry to real. A divine might that could cause all life to die quickly shackled Dong Xianjun and turned him into a world of tombstones, trying to suppress him. This peerless expert, whose cultivation had surpassed that of a Tao Lord, was displaying a divine ability that was almost identical to the descent of the evil god that had devoured the Pan-Song universe. However, compared to the evil god that devoured the Pan-Song universe, the strength of this expert was 100 times stronger. He could create a world with a thought, bury everything, and make all living beings return to the void. Jiuquan's heavenly laws have not been touched. Dong Xianjun was shocked to discover that the attack from the expert who had surpassed the Tao Lord level hadn't triggered Jiuquan's heavenly laws. This discovery greatly shocked Dong Xianjun. With his strength, he could easily kill a peak Tao Lord. However, peak Tao Lords were still within the realm of Tao Lords, and they couldn't be considered as supreme existences in the entire Eastern Profound Divine Domain. However, experts who had surpassed the Tao Lord level were 2 completely different things. Dong Xianjun was barely qualified to fight such an expert. I never expected to fall into the trap of the boundless Great Sun path. Looks like I have no choice but to use my full strength. Dong Xianjun gritted his teeth as he took out a talisman and fused a strand of thought into it. Boom! A shocking aura erupted from within the talisman, and it swiftly condensed into a figure. It was the figure of an old man. He looked extremely blurry, but his eyes were unusually bright. One was black, while the other was white, and they seemed strange. At the same time, they were filled with the ancient aura of the Grand Tao. A talisman treasure. A talisman treasure was a talisman that peerless experts had condensed from their will, magic power, and aura of the Tao without hesitation at the cost of their own essence. They gave it to their juniors to protect their lives in times of danger. Dong Xianjun was a peerless genius ranked in the top 20 of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion, so it wasn't strange for him to possess a talisman treasure created by an expert. 2 Xianguang, 1 black and 1 white, shot out from the eyes of the old man who had released the talisman treasure. They intertwined and twisted together, transforming into a chaotic river that swept out. The chaotic river contained a divine might that was chaotic in yin and yang. Wherever it swept out, The world of Blood Tomb created by the boundless Great Sun Path expert was instantly shattered layer by layer and turned into nothingness. The chaotic river shattered the world of Blood Tomb, and its remaining might didn't diminish as it swept up the boundless Great Sun Path expert and another nearby expert who had surpassed the Downlord level. The two of them were trapped in the chaotic river, and they had no choice but to use their full strength to struggle within the river. Dong Xianjun wiped off his sweat and revealed a smug expression. Being able to trap two peerless experts who had surpassed the Downlord level was enough to make him feel proud. The other geniuses ranked on the heavenly profound ranking discovered that losing the protection of the Jiushuan laws was equivalent to losing their greatest reliance. Their Tao hearts were thrown into chaos, and they lost all will to fight. Boundless Banishment Ruler. Gu Qianqi had no choice but to use his trump card. He activated a Xian Bao that looked like a ruler and released the power of space to envelop one of the boundless Great Sun Path experts. Then he forcefully tore apart the shackles of the Great Celestial Chaos Formation, and at the same time, he tore apart space and transported that expert into the chaotic space-time. The number one disciple of the three highest profound sects not only possessed astonishing strength, but also possessed such an extraordinary spatial Xian Bao that could directly banish peerless experts who had surpassed the Downlord level into the chaotic space-time. Banish. Gu Qianqi's gaze fell on one of the boundless Great Sun Path experts, and he activated the Xian Bao for the second time. Another expert who had surpassed the Downlord level was sent away. As expected of the number one disciple of the three highest profound sects, you can actually activate the Boundless Banishment Ruler, a peerless king grade Xian Bao. Suppress him. The crimson-eyed old man shouted coldly at the two boundless Great Sun Path experts. QL11 whoosh. Whoosh. One of the experts released his thoughts, which instantly turned into a world that enveloped Gu Qianqi. The other expert's thoughts turned into a blood-red divine sun that charged towards Gu Qianqi. Boundless Banishment Ruler. Banish. Gu Qianqi activated the Boundless Banishment Ruler once again, and the divine general who was charging towards him was swept into the chaotic space-time, and the world that was shackling him was also shattered by the power of the Xian Bao. Gu Qianqi was obviously unable to withstand the continuous activation of the supreme Xian Bao, and his aura became weak. Moreover, Gu Qianqi seemed to be having a hard time activating the Xian Bao again, and the power of the Xian Bao wasn't as strong as before. One of the boundless Great Sun Path experts used a thought attack to resist the power of the Boundless Banishment Ruler. The other peerless expert of the boundless Great Sun Path was blocked by a genius from the Luo Shao Sword sect, who activated a broken sword and released a shocking aura that could split the heavens and earth. Then, that genius used the supreme sword formation of the Luo Shao Sword sect, while Ling Xingchen and other geniuses used the Xian Bao and runes to entangle that genius. For a moment, there was a stalemate in the air. The most powerful elder of the boundless Great Sun Path, who had crimson eyes, didn't pay attention to the confrontation. Instead, he clasped his hands behind his back and looked at the deep sky of the formation space. As the big formation was running slowly, the divine power of the formation condensed into a huge vortex that was thousands of feet long. As it was rotating slowly, evil and cold aura constantly rolled out from the vortex. The Xian Gate that directly connected to the alien space-time in the depths of the chaos was about to be formed. If you don't take action now, you won't have the chance to do it later. Inside the Taoism palace of Yangding Tian, Su Fong took action decisively. Sizzle. The sky-piercing Blood King vines grew out of Su Fong's body and spread out quickly, and then penetrated Yang Dingtian's body. The blood strands pierced into the divine power of the formation around Yang Dingtian and devoured the power of the formation with a sizzling sound. Then, there was a vacuum around Yang Dingtian. Su Fong took the opportunity to come out from Yang Dingtian's Taoism palace and sucked Yang Dingtian into his body. Hu Tiannu, I'm coming to save you. Su Fong transmitted his primordial spirit to Hu Tiannu, who was shackled under the altar. Then, the sky-piercing blood king vines wriggled out of Su Fong's body and penetrated the divine power of the formation. The sky-piercing blood king vine's ability to penetrate all kinds of restraints and restrictions was fully utilized by Su Fong at this moment. Then, many small vines separated from the vines and entangled Hua Tiannu and the other cultivators around him like long snakes. Su Fong, why are you here? It's really Su Fong. Now, we're saved. Hua Tiannu and the other 3 cultivators were shocked after recognizing Su Fong. Then, they were overjoyed. The vines rolled up and sucked the cultivators into the deep space of Su Fong's body. The whole process was completed in a split second. Su Fong had just rescued Hua Tiannu and the others when the celestial chaos formation's terrifying power pressed down on the altar from all directions. Su Fong was instantly shackled, and under the impact of the huge formation's power, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Sizzle. The divine power of the formation not only shackled Su Fong's body, but also penetrated into Su Fong's body and devoured him crazily. Here is the chance to completely break the seal of the grand taboo art. Su Fong was not surprised, but delighted. Why was this so? In the well of divine blood, Su Fong had broken the seal of the grand taboo art with the help of the sky-piercing blood king, Vine's mother body. Now, why couldn't he use the celestial chaos formation to break the seal of the grand taboo art? Therefore, Su Fong did not resist the divine power of the formation. Instead, he took the initiative to welcome the divine power of the formation and directed it towards the Tao Palace and the seal of the Tao Heart. Boom, boom, boom. The seal of the grand taboo art was triggered and erupted with a backlash force that resisted the divine power of the formation. The divine power of the formation on the altar could not devour Su Fong immediately. More terrifying devouring forces surged from other parts of the formation. The celestial chaos grand formation was like an intricate machine. The spiritual altar that Su Fong was on was near the center of the formation. At this moment, it was not operating smoothly, causing the entire celestial chaos grand formation to be sluggish. The world-crossing mystic door that was forming ripples appeared. The blood-eyed elder of the great sun, Limitless Path, immediately sensed the abnormality and cast his gaze on Su Fong's altar. It's him, Su Fong. Chapter 2791. Su Fong. The crimson-eyed old man's voice instantly attracted the attention of countless people. Heavenly Sovereign Pansong looked at Su Fong. His eyes were burning with rage. Su Fong, I didn't expect you to come to ancient Blue City. The reason why he did not hesitate to ruin his reputation and risk universal condemnation to use the lives of countless people in ancient Blue City to change his fate was because he failed to possess Su Fong at the blood slaughter stage in the second killing Star City. Instead, Su Fong used the spider to devour his fate, causing the vitality of his heavenly mandate avatar to be greatly damaged. In Heavenly Sovereign Pansong's opinion, Su Fong was his slave. Everything that Su Fong had should belong to him. In the end, he did not get anything. Instead, he went for wool and came home shorn. How could he not hate Su Fong to the core? Su Fong, it's really Su Fong. Dong Xinjun, Dong Xinzheng, and the others were surprised and exclaimed, "This lowly ant is actually suppressed in the Great Formation. This time, he will definitely die." Dong Xinjun was shocked and surprised, but his heart was filled with joy. Su Fong was his nightmare. It was a towering mountain that pressed down on his heart. Now that he saw Su Fong trapped in the Great Formation, he would definitely not be able to escape death. Naturally, he was pleasantly surprised. Su Fong, so what if you're heaven-defying? In the end, you still can't escape death. The only pity is that I can't use your head to wash away my shame. Dong Xinzheng gritted his teeth. He was also very happy in his heart. Similarly, Ling Xingqian was also very happy. Gu Qianqi was paying attention to Su Fong. He was also very surprised. Immediately, he felt a wave of regret. With Su Fong's strength, how could he be suppressed in the Great Formation if I did not seal his cultivation with the great taboo-breaking art? How can such a genius of a human race die? because of me. No matter what, I have to save him. The other geniuses from the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, the three supreme mysterious sects, and the Luo Shao Sword sect were all very surprised when they saw Su Fong trapped in the Great Formation. At the same time, he scoffed at Su Fong. Su Fong had risen to power in heaven-forsaken desolate region, and even Dong Xinjun had been defeated by him. However, those were all rumors, and these geniuses hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Thus, all of them were rather dissatisfied with Su Fong. Now that they saw Su Fong, they thought that Su Fong was suppressed in the formation like the other cultivators, so they looked down on Su Fong and thought that Su Fong was only SOSO. Who would have thought that not only did the grand ceremony attract Gu Tianqi, Dong Xianjun, and other geniuses, it even caught Su Fong and suppressed him. The crimson-eyed old man smiled coldly, and three phantoms flashed out from his eyes. They turned into three puppets that exuded a strong aura of death. They weren't ordinary puppets, and they were puppets that utilized the evil god's descent technique to revive dead cultivators. Every single one of them possessed a cultivation at the peak of the Downward realm. As far as the crimson-eyed old man was concerned, Su Fong was trapped in the formation at this moment, and he was already a fish that had fallen into the net. Sending three peak Downward puppets to deal with Su Fong was already showing sufficient importance to him. Su Fong, watch out! Gu Tianqi warned Su Fong loudly as he activated the Infinite Exile Ruler. He intended to force back the expert that was fighting him and rescue Su Fong. However, the expert from the Boundless Great Sun sect who'd surpassed the Downward realm was truly extraordinary. He executed a thought and erupted with an attack that suppressed Gu Tianqi's Xian Bao instead. Gu Tianqi couldn't even take care of himself, so how could he possibly have the ability to rescue Su Fong? Swoosh! Swoosh! The three puppets passed through the formation and carried a monstrous aura of death that Su Fong was extremely familiar with as they charged towards Su Fong, who was on the altar. Crack! A shattering sound suddenly resounded in Su Fong's Dao Palace. Caillou's Dao Heart also suddenly felt relieved. It turned out that the Dao Palace and Dao Heart that were sealed by the great taboo art in Jiuxuan's Dao Palace had finally shattered under the impact of the formation's divine might. Gu Tianqi's great taboo art was extremely shocking, but it wasn't indestructible. In the well of divine blood, more than half of the seal had been broken by the heaven-piercing Blood King vine. Over the years, Su Fong had continuously infiltrated the seal with his blood threads, and the power of the seal had been weakened to the extreme. QL11 at this moment, under the impact of the celestial chaos formation's divine might, the seal in the Dao Palace was finally completely broken. What was left was only the primordial spirit true body, and the other true bodies that were in the whirlpool space that was still shackled by the great taboo art. The Dao Palace and Dao Heart regained their freedom, which meant that Su Fong could once again use the 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body's abilities. I can't reveal the 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body's abilities for now. I'll let Gu Tianqi and Dong Xianjun share some of the burden. Su Fong merged his Dao Heart's willpower with the 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body and released a strand of the 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body's consciousness. It turned into an extremely sharp golden sword Qi and attacked the whirlpool space where the Xianhuang true body was. Qi. The remaining shackles of the great taboo art were immediately shattered under the attack of the 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body's consciousness. The Xianhuang true body also regained its freedom. Xianhuang true body go! Su Fong was surprised and delighted, and immediately released the Xianhuang true body. More than 1,000 experts in the true body merged all their powers into the true body. Once the 6-colored pagoda's shadow appeared, it immediately shattered the surrounding shackles. Tut tut tut. The 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body's divine might exploded, and it shattered the aura of the 3 puppets that were charging towards it. The 6 Extreme Dao Saint True Body's divine might clashed with the 3 puppets. Peek into heaven's secrets, break all spells. The eyes of Su Fong's physical body suddenly shot out a misty and mysterious light. At this moment, the formation around the spiritual altar became full of flaws in his eyes. Break. The primordial spirit true body flashed out and formed a formation with his consciousness, and then used the formation to break the formation. The formation on the spiritual altar, together with the spiritual altar, shook violently but did not break. It turned out that the celestial chaos formation was extremely powerful, and every small formation was connected to the entire formation. In order to break one of the small formations, one had to have the ability to shake the entire formation. Although Su Fong could see the flaws in the formation, it was difficult for him to break the entire celestial chaos formation. Hence, Su Fong used the power of the primordial spirit true body, and at the same time, he also used formation talismans to create layers of formations on the spiritual altar to resist the divine might of the celestial chaos formation. Although the celestial chaos formation was shocking, it was only relative to the entire formation. Su Fong's spiritual altar only bore a portion of the divine might of the formation, and that was why he could use the formation to resist the pressure. However, it could not be maintained for too long. Under the continuous attacks of the celestial chaos formation, the formation created by Su Fong quickly collapsed. First, break the great taboo art and restore all my true bodies. Then, try to break the formation with all my might. Su Fong stopped attacking the formation and focused on using the consciousness of the six extreme Tao Saint to break the remaining seals on the true bodies. How shocking was the consciousness of the six extreme Tao Saint! Another consciousness was released, and the seals on the blood spirit true body were also broken. Su Fong directly released the blood spirit true body, and the 81 slashes on the blood armor released the slaughter sword formation. Together with the Xianwang true body, they attacked the three puppets. The three puppets at the peak of the Tao Lord level were unable to do anything against Su Fong's two true bodies. When Su Fong also released his primordial spirit true body, the three true bodies fought against the three puppets, and the three puppets immediately fell into a disadvantage. Wasn't his cultivation sealed by Gu Tianqi's great taboo art? How can he still release true bodies? Moreover, there are three true bodies, and each of them is extremely powerful. The great sun, endless Tao, Saint's crimson eyes narrowed slightly. Gu Tianqi was also shocked and surprised. He had personally used the great taboo art to seal Su Fong, so he naturally understood the power of the great taboo art. Not to mention a Tao Lord, even a peak Tao Lord, or a peerless expert above the Tao Lord level, would be like a cripple after being sealed by the great taboo art. They would not be able to break the seal. Su Fong actually released true bodies one after another, which meant that the great taboo art could no longer shackle him. How could Gu Tianqi not be surprised? If you don't die, how can I, Dong Xianjun, stand in the Eastern Xian divine domain in the future? Dong Xianjun's deep eyes flashed with ruthlessness. With a thought, the black and white Xian Guang flashed rapidly in the eyes of the elder formed by the talisman treasure. The chaotic river that trapped the two great sun endless Tao world masters suddenly rippled, and one of the experts took the opportunity to kill his way out of the chaotic river shackles. The crimson-eyed elder shouted imposingly, "Ignore those geniuses, go kill Su Fong." He sensed a great threat from Su Fong, so he did not hesitate to order the expert who had escaped to deal with Su Fong. That expert gave up on Dong Xinjun and went straight for the spell altar. Dong Xinjun's eyes flashed with a smug look. Gu Tianqi shouted angrily, "Dong Xinjun, you and Su Fong have a personal grudge. Now that we are facing a great enemy of the foreign races, we should unite against a common enemy. But you purposely killed Su Fong for your personal grudge. What kind of genius are you?" Dong Xinjun sneered. "Since Su Fong is so powerful, why not share some of the pressure with him? Besides, you, Gu Tianqi, are the top disciple of the three highest profound sects, but not the top disciple of Heaven Pavilion. Why do you have to order me around? I, Gu Tianqi, am ashamed to be on the same side as a shameless person like you." Gu Tianqi snorted coldly. The expert from the Great Sun Limitless sect passed through the spell formation and a thought turned into the shadow of a bloody tomb that descended on Su Fong. Die. It was not the first time that Su Fong had faced a peerless expert who had surpassed the Tao Lord level. Naturally, he knew how powerful such an expert was, and it was not something that he could fight against with his own strength. Although this expert from the Great Sun Limitless sect was not as powerful as Heartbreaker, he was still comparable to an ordinary mystic world master. Su Fong did not dare to be careless. Without hesitation, he released a thought from his lightning elemental avatar. With a flash of lightning, it turned into a swift and violent thunderbolt that flashed out. The shocking lightning elemental Taoist rhyme and the 6 extreme Great Tao Saint Will, in addition to the power of lightning elemental power that could restrain the evil way, this thought was unstoppable. Before the shadow of the bloody tomb could condense, it was already smashed into pieces. Then, the lightning instantly engulfed the expert. After a shrill scream, the expert's avatar flashed out and teleported out of the spell altar's spell formation space. He appeared in the air, and his physical body was killed by the 6 extreme Great Tao Saint Will. Chi, Chi, Chi. Another thought was released by Su Fong. It turned into a golden sword Chi that swept out and instantly killed the 3 puppets that were comparable to peak Tao Lords. Chapter 2792. Su Fong actually possesses such terrifying strength that he could instantly kill an unparalleled expert that has surpassed the Tao Master Realm. The cultivators from the Eastern Profound Divine Domain were all shocked and exclaimed. The cultivators who looked down on Su Fong earlier were all shocked. Dong Xianjun and Dong Xianzheng finally understood Su Fong's true strength. Uncontrollable fear surged from the bottom of their hearts. Even Gu Tianqi's heart was in turmoil. Only then did he realize that if he hadn't used the grand taboo shattering art to seal Su Fong's Tao Palace in advance, he probably wouldn't have been the one sealing Su Fong. Instead, he would have turned around and fled. Ling Xingqian was shocked and regretful. 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body. That's the strength of the 6 extreme Tao Saint. If I had used my full strength in the Tao Saint's divine tomb, the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body would have been my supreme fortune. How would Su Fong even have a chance? The most shocked and despairing person was the heavenly sovereign Pan Song. How could Su Fong possess such terrifying strength? He has the strength to crush experts that have surpassed the Tao Master Realm. How could I possibly possess him? Su Fong kept his primordial spirit, Xian Huang and Xinsha Dharma body, into his Tao Palace. After that, he released the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body and used his colorful Jade Tao heart to merge with the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body's will. He activated the Dharma body and unleashed a supreme will and 6 great divine auras that rushed out in all directions. How terrifying was the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body's strength. The divine auras that erupted instantly shattered the altar beneath him. Cracks also appeared in the formation amidst the violent tremors. Su Fong seized the opportunity to charge out of the formation along with the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body. Stop him! The crimson-eyed old man realized that something was amiss. The strength that Su Fong displayed when he activated the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body had already exceeded his control. It even threatened the Great Sun Limitless Sect's plan. Therefore, the crimson-eyed old man hurriedly issued orders to the experts of the Great Sun Limitless Path who were attacking the geniuses of the Eastern Profound Divine Realm. Seeing this, Gu Tianqi shouted loudly, Su Fong, you try to break the formation, we will be responsible for holding back these human traitors of the Great Sun Limitless Path. As expected of the number 1 disciple of the 3 supreme mysterious sects. Although Gu Tianqi did not understand why the Great Sun Limitless Path had created this great formation, he realized that if he did not stop at this time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing how powerful Su Fong's 6 extreme Tao Saint Celestial body was, he made a prompt decision to join forces with Su Fong. All right, Gu Tianqi, let's put aside the matter of you sealing me with the great taboo art for now. Let's work together to break the formation and stop the invasion of the alien race. Su Fong replied in a loud voice. He activated the six extreme spiritual saints' true body and released many thoughts that swept towards the cultivator who was fighting with Gu Tianqi. That cultivator's strength was comparable to a world master of a mystical world. In any force in the Eastern Xian divine domain, he would be considered a powerful cultivator. However, under the attack of the six extreme Tao saints' thoughts, he was immediately severely injured. All right, after this matter is settled, I will have another battle with you. Gu Tianqi laughed loudly and took the opportunity to activate the immeasurable banishing ruler. A terrifying spatial power erupted and tore apart the shackles of the formation, sending that cultivator into the chaotic space-time. There were a total of 6 cultivators who had surpassed the Tao Master level. Now, only 2 of them were intact, and one of them was only left with a severely injured celestial body. The entire situation was immediately reversed. Gu Tianqi joined forces to break that blood-red tower. Su Fong activated the 6 extreme Tao saints' true body and attacked the blood-red tower in middle. Crack, crack, crack. Under the attacks of the 6 extreme Tao saints' true body, the blood-red tower finally showed signs of cracking. The altars on the ground also started to crack, and the formation started to collapse. Great taboo art. Gu Tianqi released his thoughts, and at the same time, he activated the supreme superpower that was famous in the Eastern Xian divine domain. The power of the great taboo art sealed everything and enveloped the blood-red tower. Boom, boom, boom. The entire celestial chaos grand formation was not operating smoothly, and the formation on the ground almost stopped. Break! Su Fong roared angrily and activated the 6 extreme Tao saints' true body with all his might. The 6 extreme Tao saints' true body unleashed a shocking attack. Boom! The blood-red tower finally shattered. This also meant that the celestial chaos grand formation's formation on the ground, which was used to devour the life force of cultivators and mortals, had been completely broken. The cultivators who were shackled in the formation, including the cultivators of ancient Blue City who were controlling the smaller formations, and countless mortals, had finally broken free from the shackles of the formation and regained their freedom. Quickly run for your lives. Su Fong used his divine might to transmit his voice, and it resounded in all directions. Thank you, Su Fong Da. Su Fong, I will never forget your kindness in saving my life. Su Fong Da, we are unable to repay your kindness in saving our lives. Our tribe will erect a long-life memorial tablet for you for generations to come. The mortals and cultivators of ancient Blue City thought that they would definitely die this time. They did not expect that there would be a chance to escape. They were all overjoyed and grateful to Su Fong as they ran for their lives. The heavenly Lord Pan Song had also finally broken free from the shackles of the blood-red tower. He looked at Su Fong with a complicated look in his eyes. Then, his figure quickly turned into nothingness and finally disappeared without a trace. The cultivators who were captured by the Great Sun, Limitless Path, had their cultivation shackled. Although they had regained their freedom, it was difficult for them to escape. Su Fong Da's complete power swept across the ground and sensed Gao Tianlei's aura. Gao Tianlei, come here. Su Fong was both surprised and happy. He released a thought and instantly flew across the sky. He released his divine might to wrap around Gao Tianlei and suck him into the space within his body. The other cultivators whose Tao palaces and cultivation were shackled shouted, Su Fong Da, save us. There were more than 1,000 cultivators who were captured by the Great Sun Limitless Path from the various mysterious worlds and heaven-forsaken desolate region. All of them were experts. The lowest cultivation was at the Tao Lord realm, and there were also a few Tao Lords. Su Fong naturally would not let go of the opportunity to wantonly subdue his subordinates. He immediately released his divine might and sucked the cultivators into the space within his Xianhuang celestial body. However, Su Fong also paid a heavy price for this. Continuously activating the 6 extreme Tao Saint celestial body had caused his spirit to become sluggish. It was difficult for him to continue using the six extreme Tao, Saint Celestial body, directly. If it weren't for us, Su Fong would definitely have died in the formation. Now, we're helping his reputation and subduing so many subordinates. Despicable. Dong Xinjun's face was gloomy as he spoke angrily. Then, he put away the talisman treasure. The Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator, who was trapped by the chaotic river, took the opportunity to break free from his shackles. He then released his divine will and attacked Su Fong. QL11 Gu Tianqi let out a thunderous roar. Dong Xinjun, you're shameless. Dong Xinjun sneered. Isn't he very powerful? Let him kill to his heart's content and become famous in the Eastern Xian divine domain. Rumble. Just as the expert's divine will neared Su Fong, a terrifying sound of thunder suddenly rang out from a void. A lightning elemental Taoist rhyme that could destroy everything wrapped around the divine will. Before the divine will could unleash its power, it was shattered and turned into nothingness. Then, a dazzling bolt of lightning flashed out from the void and blasted the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator's body with incomparable ferocity. Crack! Lightning exploded with terrifying destructive power, turning the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator into ashes. Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. The celestial chaos formation was divided into two parts. The formation in the air was jointly cast by 365 Great Sun Limitless Path cultivators and was specifically used to create the realm-crossing profound door. The formation on the ground was mainly used to deceive Jiuxuan's heavenly laws with the lives of countless cultivators and mortals. Now that the formation on the ground had been destroyed, the celestial chaos formation's ability to deceive Jiuxuan's heavenly laws was naturally gone. Su Fong was listed on the heavenly profound ranking. When the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator attacked Su Fong, he was immediately sensed by the heavenly laws and killed on the spot. With the protection of Jiuxuan's heavenly laws, what are we afraid of? The genius from the Luo Shao Sword sect and the other geniuses were both surprised and delighted. They joined forces and launched a fierce attack on the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator opposite them. With the previous example, the Great Sun Limitless Path cultivator did not dare to continue attacking the other geniuses. He immediately teleported away and fled far away. The other geniuses breathed a sigh of relief. With the protection of Jiuxuan's heavenly laws, it was equivalent to having a life-saving trump card. Naturally, they did not have to worry about anything. Little did they know, the Great Sun Limitless Path's crimson-eyed old man's voice was filled with mockery. This is just the beginning. Don't be happy too early. Now that the world-crossing gate has been formed, my master will lead the foreign race army here. When the time comes, not only you but the entire Eastern Xian Divine Realm, and even the entire Jiuxuan Divine Realm will be turned into a wasteland. The other geniuses looked over in shock. Only then did they realize that at the center of the celestial chaos formation, a blood-red whirlpool that was at least 3,000 meters in size had stabilized. The blood-red whirlpool was extremely deep, and no one knew where it led to. Rumble. The Jiuxuan's heavenly laws had obviously sensed it. Along with the rumbling of thunder that reverberated in all directions, bolts of lightning bombarded the blood-red whirlpool. The blood-red whirlpool shook continuously. The vitality and cultivation of the 365 Tao Lords who had used their own bodies to create the celestial chaos formation surged madly into the blood-red whirlpool. Although the whirlpool was shrinking continuously, it would not shatter in a short period of time. Their vitality and cultivation were depleting at an alarming rate. Their auras were all withered, and it seemed like they would die at any moment. However, none of them moved an inch and looked fearless. Gu Tianqi's expression changed instantly. That's the world-crossing gate. The foreign race will enter the Eastern Xian Divine Realm from the depths of the chaos through the gate. When that time comes, the Eastern Xian Divine Realm will be plunged into a calamity. We must stop them at all costs. Stop them? How? Even the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws could not destroy the world-crossing gate. What could these geniuses do? Just as the geniuses were hesitating, a sinister laugh sounded from the depths of the blood-red whirlpool, as if it had come from another world. They're finally here. Kiki, I can already smell the fresh life of the human cultivators. Su Fang's expression changed instantly when he heard this voice.